something across my desk was, hey, there's a dude that's living in Belgrade who's a big-time bad guy financer. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, this isn't running around Yemen. This is Belgrade. And they're like, we just need dirt on him. So I beat the streets, and Serbia is a beautiful country. It's amazing. Yeah. Trying to see if this guy's into tubes, into drugs, like just really trying to find anything on this guy. And this guy's clean as a whistle. I'm like, this sucks. I had recruited a source. I was at his house. He takes a phone call one night, leaves. 45 minutes later, the door busts open, and I see him like fly across the floor in handcuffs. I'm like, what the f-? And then I look up, and there's a gun at my forehead, and I just see it like right here, and I can hear the magazine shaking and rattling because the guy's so nervous.
What's up, guys? If you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button and hit that like button on the video. And if you don't have time to watch this episode right now, I'd really appreciate it if you saved it to your watch later playlist on YouTube. Finally, if you'd like to follow me on Instagram or X, those links are in my description below. Dan Corbett, thank you for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me.
I've been looking forward to this one since your buddy Taylor brought you up on our podcast. He said, you got to talk to this guy. He's real savage.
Your Taylor voice is very good. That's a good Taylor.
How do you know him? Were you on a team with him at some point?
No, he was one of my students when I was training kids.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And that was, what, maybe like 2009, 2010, something like that?
10, 11, 9, yeah, something like that.
Out of Coronado?
Yep.
How long did you do that for? Like
I was training for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Were you doing that with Eddie Gallagher too?
No, I think we either missed each other or were in different departments.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you go into a training platform or pipeline, you're pretty much doing one thing. Like I was specializing in room clearing.
Room clearing.
Yeah. So when the kids would go through that, they would get me and another group, my group of instructors to teach that. And then when they would go to the next phase, there's a whole set of instructors dedicated to the next thing.
Understood. Yeah, there's so many different moving pieces there. When I have the Navy SEALs and something gets unlocked every time, like, wait, I never heard that one before with all the training you guys do. But it's like, I love talking with you guys because you're like the elites of the elites. You know, you're the guys who are called in to do the crazy shit around the world when stuff's going down, you guys, and then on the spec ops side as well in the Army. But, you know, for you, was being in the military or even like a Navy SEAL something you thought about when you were growing up a ton, or?
Not really. I didn't really think about much. I was so busy like with sports and school. I didn't really know even what Navy SEALs were until I was 16. Yeah.
And when you were 16, were you thinking, I want to go in when I'm 18? Or?
Yeah. Well, what happened was someone showed me the VHS old school, I think Nat Geo or History Channel, like documentary on SEAL training, and then I was hooked. I was like, man, I want to do this.
And what sports were you into?
I did football, huge football town where I was from, and started doing cross country and triathlons as well.
That probably serves yourself pretty well for the Navy SEAls. Football with cross country and triathlons.
Exactly, a little bit of everything.
They're like, check, check.
Exactly.
So did you go in right when you were 18?
Yeah. Well, I signed at 17, delayed entry program, DEP, and I did that just to make an insurance policy against myself. Like, I wanted to graduate and go and not get sucked into like, oh, let's take a year off. Let's do a cool senior trip to Cancun. I was like, nope, I'm going to promise it, sign it, graduate, and leave.
Accountability.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I'm always amazed at the guys who joined like when they were 18, and especially the ones who even signed up before, that you guys have like the presence of mind at 16, 17 to be like, I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to do this crazy thing. I'm going to get it done. Like I could barely function when I was 16 or 17.
Yeah. I mean, I did the delayed entry because I know myself too.
Yeah.
I could be like, I can do a year off. I can go do this. Maybe I'll go to junior. I was like, nope. Boom.
And you didn't want to go to college?
I didn't like, you know, people have asked me this before. They like, oh, when did you decide what you're going to do after high school? And high school was great for me. So I wasn't even thinking about college. I wasn't even, no one in my family, there's no college graduates. So it wasn't even like a big thing. I wasn't even thinking about college. And then when I saw that video, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm going to do.
That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
What did your parents do?
My dad was in the Army.
Okay.
My mom was a preschool teacher.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So your dad, I mean, I always wonder about also the patriotic duty, if you will, that goes with it. Like, obviously you're going to go do a very hard thing, and it's a really cool job. It's high octane, but it's a really cool job. But at the same time, you're also signing yourself to, lay your life down for the country. And again, you're doing this at 16, 17, 18 years old. Do you have a concept of like, damn, I love living here and I'd do anything to fight for it? Or does that come later?
I think it comes later. I don't think, at least for me, I didn't have that presence of mind to think about, serving my country at 16, 17, 18. It was more, I want to do this challenging thing. And from the video I saw, it seemed like really cool environment and awesome people that are super smart, super athletic, super motivated. I said, it's perfect. And that was the initial draw. And I think once you start deploying and you start to see the real toll it takes on some families when guys don't come home, you're like, oh, that's when it starts to hit you. That's when you kind of grow up a little bit. Like, this isn't just a cool job.
There's a lot more. Yeah. And I mean, I'm talking to you as a guy who was on multiple different SEAL teams. We already mentioned you ended up becoming a trainer as well. Like, you ended up going in and doing the damn thing for a while and doing it pretty big. And we'll get to all that today. But when you go into 18, coming fresh out of high school, obviously you're a great athlete. Was BUD/S kind of exactly what you expected, or was it more of a kick in the ass than you thought?
BUD/S is weird because there was little information back in the day when I was interested. So you kind of had an idea, but getting ready for it, I would just train to infinity, right? So I would just run, then come home, rest, run again, because I didn't really know where the limit was going to be. Yeah, there's times and stuff that you have to meet, but you just trained because there wasn't enough information out there to be like, okay, this is enough. I need to do this much. So when I got there, I think most people perceive things always a little bit harder than it actually is going to be.
Yes.
It was hard, but it wasn't undoable. Obviously, I made it through, but the times aren't crazy. You don't have to be a college cross-country runner to hit the run times. You don't need to be an Olympic swimmer to hit the swim times. They're doable. The hardest part about BUD/S was it being so long and waking up at 4 a.m. or 3:30 and being like, damn, I'm doing this for 6 months. Oof, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, there was the recent news with, I think his name was Kyle Mullen, who was a BUD/S trainee who died doing this stuff. And I know you hate to see that happen and stuff, but I also understand if you're training for the highest level of the military to do the craziest stuff, you kind of have to simulate the most intense, potentially even life-threatening situations, no?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the details, and I don't think the training necessarily killed that guy from what I have heard, but to your point of training that intensely, even when you're at the SEAL teams, I remember my first contact I got in Iraq in 2005. I thought it was a training. I thought it was like, oh, it's a flashbang, back left, and I'm like, holy shit, this is real. So it was almost like we trained too intense. Yeah, I was like, oh, like this is really happening. Fuck. So yeah, we do train the most realistic, scenarios we can.
What was the hardest part of it for you?
The cold, man. I hate being cold. And I went through Hell Week in January, and the Pacific Ocean is that's the killer. It's right there. Training's right on the beach. Yeah. Go get wet. I'm like, God, man, really? Can I just do 1,000,000 push-ups? Nope, go get wet.
How long would they have you in there to do drills? What was the longest period of time?
I couldn't even tell you, but they push it. They have charts with the air temp, water temp, and they go, okay, human body can be in this. Oh yeah, they max out the charts. They have it right there to go right up to that line.
Whoa! And what years are you doing this?
I was in BUD/S in 2003.
Okay, so this is an interesting time. This is shortly after 9/11. We're fully in Afghanistan. We're headed into Iraq at this point.
Yeah.
So you got to know while you're doing this, even if you're young. You're like, well, shit's popping off. I'm probably gonna be in the action right away if I get through this. No.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of hate and discontent from the older instructors. They were like, hey guys, I've been in the SEAL teams 20 years. I've done East Coast. I've done West Coast. I've been chasing conflicts. You guys have no idea how lucky you are because you didn't go right to the show. And he wasn't wrong.
Yeah, it's a strange way for civilians to hear people think, but, you know, you guys want to do that. You want, like, that's what you're there for. You're like, put me in the action, no matter how dangerous it is.
That's what I tell people. It's like, imagine being a pro soccer or football player, training like crazy all week and never having a game on Friday night. You want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing I always ask all the Navy SEALs when they're in here is what they think the number one trait is someone needs to get through BUD/S, because you hear all the stories about the guys who show up and it's like, oh, that guy's definitely going to make it. And then they're the first one to drop out. Yeah. And then the guys who show up there, you're like, well, he's f***ed. And then that's the savage that goes all the way through. And it's funny because every time I've asked this question, I get a different answer. So I'm curious, like, as someone who was also a trainer and had to watch this from the other side eventually as well, what do you think it is that kind of separates the SEAL from the one who rings the bell?
It's all mental. And the guys I've seen do the best aren't guys who've done endurance sports where you're doing those long runs or those whatever endurance sports. You need to go into that weird space in your mind to just block out the pain. If you can put yourself in those scenarios before showing up to BUD/S, so it's not a new scary place to go, because you're going to have to go there. Yeah. You can only do so many push-ups, pull. I don't care who you are. Wednesday night of Hell Week, you're done. And now it's all just in your head. So it's the people who've exposed themselves to that type of mental hardship and pushed through and are comfortable being in that spot, so that when they get there in BUD/S, they go, oh yeah, this is like when I did that marathon. This is like when I did this. That people who can suffer and be okay suffering.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night out with drinks. It's called Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-Alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. It's this byproduct, not your dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little skeptical when I first heard about Z-Biotics, but I recently had my buddy's wedding, figured why not? Let's give it a try. So I drank Z-Biotics before a night of great fun, and to my surprise, the next morning I woke up feeling pretty damn good. I was able to work out, go for a walk, take some calls, clean my apartment. Life was good. So whether it's vacations, weddings, birthdays, reunions, or just a good night out, get the most out of your upcoming plans by stocking up on your pre-alcohol now. You can do that by going to zbiotics.com/Julian to get 15% off your first order using code Julian at checkout. That's Julian. Pre-alcohol is back with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied with your product, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So remember to head over to zbiotics.com/Julian and use code Julian at checkout to get 15% off your first order. The link is in my description below, and thank you to Z-Biotics for sponsoring today's episode. In a way, I'm translating here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but people who have, like, simulated the pain, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say how you'll react when, like, you know how the human mind works. You're just like, oh, I could just stop right now and rest for a second. But you're in a situation where the one time you do that in this long course you're doing with BUD/S and training, you're out. Like you can't, it's not like you can have an off day. You can't have an off minute doing this. That's why I have so much respect for the guys who have made it through. But when you came out on the other side, first of all, like the guys who made it in your class with you, were those guys you ended up, some of them going into actual teams with and maintain friendships with today, or did you guys kind of all go to separate teams?
We were such a small class that we all went separate ways.
Okay.
And kind of backfilled in teams, yeah.
Now, I'm trying to think with the timeline here. I know at some point it changed. It used to be like the even teams were East Coast and odd teams were West Coast or something, and each team was a specific geography in the world. Was it still that way when you were coming out?
So you're correct on the odds and evens, right? even numbers, East Coast, odd West Coast. So before I came in, each of the teams had little specialties. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're Arctic, we're jungle, or whatever.
Right.
But then Iraq popped off, and the tempo for like the desert teams was just too much. They didn't stay there forever, right? Stay there for 10 years. So they said, okay, scratch all the specialty stuff. Let's get everyone over there and rotate out. Yeah.
Okay. So was it a situation where you had a choice to like pref what teams you wanted to be on, or was that?
So you can do a wish list, right?
Okay.
But the needs of the Navy will trump that.
Right.
So I was like, I want to stay on the West Coast, SEAL Team 5. And at that time, 5 had like a really cool kind of rock star mentality vibe that would pick up on. I'm like, I want to go to SEAL Team 5. And then you'd have to go in order down. Okay, SEAL Team 3, SEAL Team 1. And I got lucky. I got to go where I wanted.
Why was 5? Why were they the rock stars?
I don't know. They just had that vibe. They were just like, they're cool, hanging out on the beach, running. I was like, man, that's cool. They're playing volleyball, and they were always joking and stuff when we'd run by. So I'm like, that's cool.
You want to be a part of that?
Yeah.
So you start off on 5. You
Yep.
come out. Now, what was like your specialty while you were a trainee coming through? Like, what was the main thing that you were bringing to the table?
Fucking listen. Just listen and learn. When you're brand new, it's listen, learn, take the trash out. Be the first one there, be the last one to leave. Learn about every department you can. And then you'll get put into stuff. Then I went to breacher school and became a breacher. But when you first get there, you're just taking it all in because you're not really done. Like, I got through BUDS, I got through SQT. It's like, well, now I have to learn how to function in this team.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think Ephraim was telling me like you can get kicked out at any time. Like if you're not assimilating.
Yeah. So
at all.
selection's never over.
Right.
Yeah. You got to show up every day for sure.
And you're showing up onto a team where there's guys sometimes who have been there for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have some guys who've been there for 2 or 3, but it's like a mix.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to say how big the team was, right?
I mean, not huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very specialized,
Yeah.
if you will. So you come out, it's still 03 at this point?
When
you finish BUDS?
No, I think I checked in 04.
Okay. So Iraq has been going for like a year.
Oh, yeah.
Roughly at this point.
Popping.
Are you going into action right away? Or now how'd that go down?
Summer of 05, we deployed to Iraq, and for the first 3 months, we had to do a personal security detail for one of the local nationals. Nothing too spicy during that time, and then the last 3 months, we did just direct action assaults.
And what's that comprised of?
Rolling up on a dude's house at night, breaching the door, either grabbing them or if there's resistance, and you got to take shots, and gathering any intel, bring it back, and seeing if you can farm that intel into another target. And we just did that for 3 months.
Are you doing any of that in conjunction with other parts of the military, or is that strictly SEAL Team 5 going in for?
So I'm sure other parts of the military were involved, but like that was my first deployment. I was just making sure I had a round in the chamber. So that bigger picture stuff, it wasn't even important to me because I didn't have the bandwidth for that. I was like, okay, make sure my night vision has a new battery. Like I was just like, be a good new guy. That's it. Mm-hmm. And all that stuff will come later on. That's more leadership stuff.
What's it like when you get off the plane and you're in Iraq in the middle of a war zone?
It was pretty wild because we were getting ready to land. I remember thanks for the question. First time I even thought of this. Guys start unzipping their bags, putting on their body armor as we're coming in the airport. I'm like, no shit. Like,
yeah.
It's hard to, even though you've been told it's real, you've been training that it's real, until you're there, you're like, oh, it's real. And you land and you're like, oh, the airport just got bombed in the south end or whatever. And you're like, holy shit. Like, okay, we're here. Yeah, it was very surreal.
Where did you land?
I think we landed right in Baghdad.
In Baghdad.
Yeah.
What's that? Bayat?
Bayat.
Yeah. So there was a whole thing. I'm forgetting the details, but like Chris Cathers had talked about that. Like that was like a major operation right at the beginning where they like took the airport or something. So when you're landing, it's like part of a green zone, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come in, and the first 3 months aren't crazy. The next 3 months, you're doing a lot of these roll-ups. How did you guys, are you working with intel at this time to determine like where you're going? I would imagine you're not just like picking out random houses.
So, back to what I was saying earlier, they had a JOC or TOC and, Tactical Operations Command or Joint Operations Command. And like, it's straight out of like an old NASA movie. You walk in, there's screens everywhere. There's people like, making target packages and stuff. And, I wasn't invited nor wanted to be anywhere near that as my first deployment. I'll let the head shed deal with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what, like, 'cause that's kind of a whole new world as far as you're not exposed to any of that when you're out of Coronado.
No, I'm just trying to like make sure I clear my quota when I enter the room. I'm not worried about target packages at this time. No.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing about some of the backstories with like how CIA or DIA had to work with the SEALs or Special Forces to find targets, because you're bringing together such wildly different personalities. You kind of have your like Ivy League, computer types, and then you have like a where's my fucking hex bar? Let's get some deadlift in types. You know?
And it's funny because you'll see them try to like go out of their lane, and the tech nerd guy will be like, "Oh, you guys should do it like this." Like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, stop. And then one of us will be like, "Oh, you should have." 10 drones do this, and we're like, shut up, bro. Like, stop. So like, it's funny to see when everyone like, oh, I'm going to try to suggest this to them. And it's like, bro, you have no idea what you're talking about. But it happens both ways. So it's funny.
Yeah. Stay in your lane.
Yeah. Just do your job. I'll do my job. It will be good.
How was the drone technology at that time in like 2005?
I think it was minimal.
Right?
I think it was super minimal. Yeah.
Everything I've always heard was like that kind of came in hard at the end of Bush's presidency.
Yeah.
Like 2007, 2008, right?
Yeah.
So I guess at the time it is, well, this is 2005. So is this like kind of on the hunt for Al-Zakawi? Were you involved in that at all?
I think that was going on, but we never got tasked for that.
So what really was the mission at the time? And the reason I asked that is just because obviously Iraq started successfully, like, hey, wow, we rolled in, we did it. And then suddenly insurgency goes crazy.
Power vacuum.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's like 2005? What's the vibe, if you will?
And 2005 was just fucking fighting in the streets, man. It was crazy. Like we're going after the just generic bad guys, just bad dudes, and that was it. It was popping off at the gate at night, during the day, and I couldn't tell you exactly who we were targeting, because I was just like, here's a picture of the guy, put it on my little play sheet. All right, let's go. So I mean, I was what, 20, 21, and just go.
That's wild. You like see him? Yep, take him.
Yeah, that's it.
But you're also doing this like, it's got to be difficult when these guys are like hiding behind families and stuff and innocence, because like you're going into some places, it's like there's kids there, but you got a really bad guy in there. You got to take it down. Yeah.
So 2 things. 1, I'm coming home. That's all stop. 2, fucking shoot tight. Yeah. Shoot hard groups, and you shouldn't be a problem. And if something does happen, that's on him for hiding behind his kids. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shitty reality, but it's like war is hell. You're in the middle of a war zone. Shit's going down, and you or them. To a degree, if you're gonna fight monsters, you need to be just a slightly bigger monster, right? You don't want to go too big of a monster, and then it's harder to come back from. But me versus you, it's gonna be me. I'm gonna win. That's it. Did you have that mentality at the time?
Yeah,
like that exact
100%.
Was that something that had kind of been ingrained in you from the trainers or the people who kind of prepared you for that, or was that more intuition yourself?
I think it was just intuition, playing middle linebacker, just trying to crush dudes. I don't know. I think that could have something to do with it. Yeah.
Did you have situations during this first run here, I guess like that second 3 months, where you had some really tight calls or difficult decisions?
No, I got pretty lucky on that deployment. Everything was pretty cut and dry. Yeah.
When you're going in to roll up, like you're a breacher, so that's one of your specialties with this, but I would imagine you're rolling up on all different types of places. It's not just always like a house in the city. You know, it might be a different layout, if you will. Like, how do you plan a lot of this ahead of time?
So if we can, and we get intel, we can kind of see what it looks like. But it's all bird's eye view, and you're like, okay. And sometimes they'll have a source, and they'll do a drive by and get pictures. But pictures are good, but it's always different when you get there. But most of our hits were in the city, apartment complexes, and training for an exact layout, that's not how we operate. We train tactics so that you can go to any layout and do the tactic and execute. Because you can't train for every single layout. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You'd be training forever, right? So you have your standard operating procedures and then execute on the target, and you're good. I mean, one time we had a target in the middle of a field, a house. We got there, there was 150 houses because the satellite imagery was super old. So we ended up breaching like 26 houses until we found the right one. Yeah.
26 houses?
Oh, yeah.
How'd they not catch you after like 4? Like, oh, they're here.
Right? I mean, I have some hearing loss from that night, but yeah, it was wild.
Oh, my God. Yeah, because you're right up. What are you wearing when you breach? Like, do you put in like some plugs or something?
No. So
we're all dogging.
Yeah. So you can wear like, this is before like the really good noise canceling Peltors that you wear over your ears. But still, even with those, when you get shot at, it's hard to tell exactly what direction. So I would have one ear for comms and one ear open. And some of these courtyards, the way a lot of houses were set up in Iraq, you'd have the house and then like a really thick mud wall courtyard. A lot of those times, the distance from the door where the breach is going to happen to the courtyard wall was inside the minimum safe distance of the charge. So as a breacher, you're putting it on and you're like getting as far back as you can, like sucking up against the wall, but you're still like 3 to 6 feet inside of where you're supposed to be. And you're just like, boom, and you send it.
You ever get knocked out from that sometimes?
I didn't get knocked out, but we did a breach and it would like, the waves traveled down a stairwell, hit me in the face, and I had a bloody nose. And I'm like, dude, I get shot? But it was the way the explosive wave went boom, ricocheted, and hit me right in the face. I was like, wow. It was wild.
It's intense.
Yeah.
But it's got to be heavy adrenaline. I mean, you got to be like, that's what you're there to do.
mean, kind of. It's more. It's kind of calming. And I tell people this: if someone you loved was going to get open heart surgery, would you want the surgeon to come in like, let's go, let's fucking go? You'd be like, hold up, buddy. Or would you want him to come in, cool, hey, I got this. I'm methodical, boom, 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 done. I'd want that guy. Right? Yeah.
I had a doctor one time when I was going to get surgery. He didn't walk in like, let's fucking go. But he walked in with just enough energy and confidence that I felt like it was more the calmness.
Okay,
it just wasn't like, he wasn't like, hey, how are you? He was like, all right, let's do this.
That's cool. That's assuring.
Okay.
That's cool.
All
I
right,
like that.
all right, you got this.
So it's like that. It's like, yeah, we're good. Let's go. We got this. It's not, right? Because you want to make your shots count and you want to be calm and you want to make the right decisions. Yeah.
During this time period, though, like, because you're working with all these guys who had been on the teams, obviously, like within Team 5 for a long time in many cases, is there a point where you kind of feel like, I think I've earned their respect. Like I've been here, I'm executing, and they're like, okay, this guy can stay.
We train for 6 months before we even deploy as a team, and I think you earn their respect during that time, and then on deployment, you guys are like living together, right? Because when you're training, you do training trips and you go home and blah blah blah. But you really don't really know somebody until you live with them. And you're living with people for 6 months. 2 to a room, or 3 to a room, 4 to a room, or maybe you have your own little room, but like communal space, everything, kitchen, living room, like whatever. That's when you really earn the respect. Is like you can operate as a teammate, both on and off the battlefield, living and working. So you gain a little bit while you're getting through workup your 6 months before you deploy, but it's overseas. Yeah, is when they're like, okay, you're good to go.
Is that where you kind of start to develop lifelong bonds, if you will?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And you didn't have, as you said, you didn't have any guys from your class with you. So you're meeting all new guys and you're kind of like the rookie out there.
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple other new guys that were a class before me. So, I mean, we're like, hey, we're the two new guys. Let's make sure the trash is picked up. And then,
right.
Yeah.
So at the end of the, what was 6 months, that deployment? Is that right? So at the end of 6, do they send you back to Coronado and just say, like, you're required to chill here for a while? Or at this time, are they possibly giving you the choice of, like, hey, do you want to stay for a second deployment or something like that?
So what's unique about the SEAL teams is that we do cyclical training. So you get back from deployment, you have some time off, you go to schools, individual schools, like, I want to go to sniper, I want to do this. Okay. You come back from that, and then you start the cycle over again. 6 months working together, doing diving, room clearing, blah, 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 what each of the phases of training. And then once that's over, you deploy again. But unless a guy's got like 10 deployments and he's going to have a newborn, no one's asking to leave. People get, right. It's like pulling teeth, like, hey, we need guys to leave the platoon and go to a training command. And they're like,
fuck that,
dude. But some guys are like, hey, I've got a million deployments. My wife and kids are ready to leave me. I got like, okay, go do, I get it. But that's like different. Being a young single dude, I'm like, fuck it, leave me over here. Yeah. Like, let's go.
And you're what, like 20 at this
20,
time?
21, yeah.
Yeah, so you're young. You got
I
everything in front
don't give a shit. Let's go, yeah.
But when you do go back, like, what specialty did you pick up the first time?
So a breacher, and then that was it, man. Just breacher, and I became a sniper much later on in my career.
So when you came back, you didn't do one of those schools?
No, I had to do all the non-fun schools, like static line jump master, dive supervisor. That's like
static line jump master.
Yeah,
that's a new one.
It's just when guys are getting ready to do a static line jump, which we don't even do anymore, you have to go to the course to do an inspection on them before they go out the plane. And those are like the mandatory new guy schools I kind of skipped out on. So I had to go backfill all those kind of administrative, not very sexy schools.
The paint drying classes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you do that. You do a workup. Now you ended up, as we said, on other SEAL teams. Are you still on SEAL Team 5 at this point?
Still at SEAL Team 5. My buddy goes, hey, I want to screen for SEAL Team 6. And I'm like, I haven't really heard about it. And the things I had heard about it, which is obvious to me now, were from disgruntled members that aren't at SEAL Team 6. They had screened and got rejected. So anytime I heard that come up, I was like, oh, it's not cool. And my buddy, best friend, he's like, I'm going to do it. I'm like, oh, fine, I'll do it with you. So we worked out, and we screened, and we both got picked up. And that was going to be after we got back from our next deployment with SEAL Team 5 again.
What makes SEAL Team 6, like everyone out there knows that team more than any other, partially because of the Bin-Laden raid, but like what makes them this whole like different thing?
The selection process and the funding.
The funding.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
So funding equals training opportunities, and training opportunities equal skill sets.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be selected to even try out. And the pace of that course is so fast. If you make a Monday mistake on Monday, that's fine. But if you make a Monday mistake on Tuesday, you're gone. Like, they don't slow the train for anybody. So you have people who can just process information so fast and learn so quick, and not just regurgitate it and forget it, like learn it, know it, and done. And then the funding and training and the tempo of deployments to actual combat is much higher, so you have a bunch more experience.
The funding thing's a new one for me, though, because I guess like in my civilian-ass brain, I always just figured, all right, you got all these SEAL teams, they got what they need. But SEAL Team 6 like gets a lot more earmarked from the government, you're saying?
Yeah.
When did that start? It's just always been that way?
Yeah, I mean, they're different classifications. So SEAL Team 6 is a Tier 1 command under JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. So they have different pots of money they can pull from.
Oh, so it's a completely different... Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, like, in my head, it's like if I'll just make up a team, if I'm SEAL Team 3 and I've been assigned to do crazy mission X or whatever that needs to get done, whatever it may be, you know, my thought has always been what they need, they get, right? But it's not, you're saying it's not necessarily that way because certain teams are going to have more access to that.
I don't think anyone goes wanting, but I will say you'll have sexier gear at SEAL Team 6. You'll get better platforms to train on at SEAL Team 6. Yeah.
So you and another buddy screened and both got accepted,
yep.
You were saying? This is like 07 now? 06, 07?
So we got accepted, deployed to the Philippines, came back, and then went right into the selection course.
Okay, so you deployed to the Philippines still a member of Team 5?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. What were you doing there?
Doing some like weird intel stuff. There's some bad guys down on the southern island chain, down in Holo between Philippines and Indonesia. There's a couple groups. There's MNLF, Muro National Liberation Front, Abu Sayyaf group, and MILF. And terrorists, bad guys. And we would just train with the Filipino SEALs, which in Marines, which is some interesting times. You know, we had a little gym outside, and we'd be working out. You know, jungle. We have our shirts off, and they'd all just be posting up, watching like this. And I was like, "What? Okay." It was wild, man. I was like, "All right, man."
Are they any good?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. They're like, "Hey, go teach them jungle warfare." I'm like, "Motherfucker, these guys live here. What am I going to teach them?" Okay, sure. Like, stupid. Yeah.
Now, so are you doing any missions at that time to take down some of those terror cells or whatever when you were there?
We were training the local nationals as well as trying to gather intel to share with other entities. Yeah.
So there's okay. So you do it. It's a similar setup in that yes, you're working with the local guys, include the local military, but you have your intel people like you were talking about your NASA station in Iraq. You have a similar type setup here with them in the Philippines.
Correct.
And I'm trying to think and keep it straight, but like, you know, 06, 07, this kind of area is the main, I guess, like top line target that these cells are operating off of still Al-Qaeda at this point? Is that more?
They're the one of the three aforementioned, Abu Sayyaf, MILF, MLF. Same concept.
So they're not with it. They're not like
I'm
off branches at all.
I'm sure they have the same flags. They're like, oh, we're brothers of bad guys together. Yeah. So they're yes, one and the same.
Okay, and that was like 6 months being there.
Yep.
So you come back now. You go into selection for SEAL Team 6.
Correct.
What's this like?
It was wild. It's like super intense. There's you go into a room to, you know, do room clearing, and there's like 4 instructors in the rafters watching 2 of you, and there's like 3 instructors on the ground watching you, like this far from your face, like really not to, oh, you went too far, or you did the, excuse me, you did this, you did that, and I was like, damn, like straight up, like no room for error, and it was like that for 6 months with every block of training.
How many guys were looking to come in?
I can't really say, but I can say by the end of it, and these are all like rock star dudes that even showed up, we had half at the end. Yeah.
So they just went back to other teams?
Yeah, they went back. They probably went back to the SEAL team they came from, yeah.
Whoa. That's intense.
Yeah.
So you finish that. Now you show up to the actual team.
Correct.
And you're loading up to go, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this Fallujah or?
No, my first one was Afghanistan.
So you went to Afghanistan?
Yeah.
In 07?
I think 08.
Okay, 08.
Yeah.
Now, what's going on in Afghanistan at the time? Like, what was that like?
Like legit bad guys, like legit fighters. And I tell people, you know, in Iraq, we would breach the door and the guys would throw the guns out the window or over the wall, and they'd be like, oh, and they're crying and screaming. You're like, oh, you fucking turd. In Afghanistan, you can call in AC-130 gunships and they'll keep running at you. I'm like, oh, these dudes are fucking down. Like jihad is real here.
Mm.
Yeah, so it was eye opening to see those two different theaters and the actors you're fighting against.
Yeah, it's also a whole different, completely different terrain.
Yeah, because we were mountains. Yeah, we were rolling around urban, city streets, and then boom, you're at 8,000 foot elevation, and you're like, fuck. And you have to walk in and go up another two. Like, it's like, oh shit, this is like some mountain warfare shit. Yeah.
Now, did that get scary out there? Like, because it's a totally different type of tempo in how you're engaging.
The fighters were scarier.
Yeah.
But I think rolling around Iraq, like the area, that was scary to me because IEDs and you're in Humvees driving down these narrow streets and then you see a car, like its lights start flashing. You're like, fuck, if that thing goes, we're done.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, it's those narrow streets with a bunch of cars. Like any one of these can be an IED and we're done. Yeah. That's it. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can be the best shot. You can do 1 million pull-ups. You can do a sub 4 minute mile. You're dead. So like that in your mind, you're like, fuck, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you. But you're getting there, like, I talked to all different guys who went through Afghanistan intermittently in the years leading up to 2021. And it's like, if you look back at the beginning of that mission, post 9/11, it's one of the most successful military operations in world history. You had this whole paramilitary setup that was new at the time. They came in, they mopped the floor with a lot of that. And then obviously politically in DC, the whole thing happens where it's like, oh, we're going to Iraq now. Yeah. And it's like you take your eye off the ball, you pull all these resources out of Afghanistan, you stick it into Iraq, that's a separate issue. And it was like almost the way it's been described to me is it's almost like a slow burn over those next, let's say 03 on, those next 18 years where because there's not as much resources on the ground, the central part of the mission kind of gets lost. It's more just like blocking and tackling rather than game planning. And you get into this point, I don't know if it's 08, maybe it's 09, 10, 11, but Taliban is kind of like rising from the ashes a little bit and taking more and more itty-bitty pieces. Were you seeing that at the time you were there?
Yeah, and it's a really difficult situation because we roll into a village, hey, we heard you're helping Taliban. And they're like, yeah, we are. You're not going to just kill this guy. You can't. Like, we're not savage. I'm not going to kill this guy because...
Right.
And they go, why'd you help him? He's going to cut off my head and rape my wife and kill my whole family. So, like, that's the enemy we're against. So how do I convince him? Let that happen and don't, support us instead. Like, they're fucked.
Yeah.
It was a really shitty situation to see them like, yeah, we'll help you. And then they're helping us, telling us where the IEDs are being buried. And then Taliban comes up and like, you don't fucking tell them shit or everyone's dead. And they go, roger that. So who are you going to side with? Because we're not going to go chop their heads off. Yeah.
Like in developing intel sources, though, obviously you're getting people who are then completely risking their lives because
100%.
If that were ever found
not
out,
even that, their family too.
Right, their whole family,
100% dead.
How do you convince someone to do that?
I think a lot of them want to. They've probably already been victims of violence from Taliban. They're like, fuck this, I'm out. I don't care if I die. I want these guys dead.
It's crazy that you looked at that. Those guys were even more about it, though. I wouldn't have thought that.
They're about it.
You have some crazy gunfights out there?
No, because I was at SEAL Team 6. We roll at night with dudes who shoot super fucking hard. We have all the right gear, and we're sneaky. And our gunfights were a lot of times one way. Been a couple, but it's usually one direction, and then we leave. That's it. That's it. Yeah. Those conventional units, or like even MARSOC guys, or all these other guys who are like posted up on roofs and just for days and shit, and like the fights they get in, I'm like, God damn, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the way we operated when I was there and the missions I did would be the equivalent of walking up to a drunk guy at a bar and just knocking him out and then leaving. Like there wasn't really any big fights.
Yeah, that's really.
We had a couple, but.
Yeah, when I had Ephraim Matos in here, he was there a few years after you, but he had some wild firefights in Afghanistan, like in the tree lines, like boop, 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 shit. Like his storytelling on that, I felt like I was there, but it was crazy because it's like, our guys are 100 yards up there, our other guys are 100 yards down there. They're behind trees, we can't see them. They got snipers in the town right there. There's an open field over here. It's like, how do you even? Dude. I don't have that background at all, so it's hard for me. But holy shit,
that's wild.
Yeah.
We had some interesting stuff. We had a tree line. We had a dude up in the tree, and our K9 got hit, and we smoked those guys. But everything we do is at night. We have night vision and lasers. I mean, it's a cheat code, and we have every asset you can imagine.
Finding a guy in the tree at night is a cheat code.
No, us having night vision and lasers and them not. That's a cheat code. You can see at night. It's wild, and they can't. So like, it's unfair, which is good. I don't want to fight fair when I'm going to war.
So we hadn't given them our weaponry yet.
No, this is post. You guys have all of our cool shit now. This is pre that. Yeah.
They're running around the woods with night vision.
Yeah, like, hey,
where was this?
You see your name stenciled on it? That used to be mine.
Oh man, what did you think in August 2021 when you saw that as a guy who had been there?
See, I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way. Like what's happening? It was equivalent of watching 9/11 on the news. Yeah. I was like, is this really happening? And the people hanging on the planes and falling, like, I was like, holy shit. And then those 13 Marines who got blown, I was like,
oh, it's horrible.
It is still even hard for me to comprehend to this day.
So you didn't see that coming?
No, I mean...
You hadn't been there in a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was last year, I went back and listened to a really old podcast from like 2014 with Joe Rogan and that CIA guy, Mike Baker. Mm-hmm. And it really put a chill up my spine because there was a point in there where Mike Baker basically for, 5-10 minutes, this is 2014, described play-by-play.
No shit.
How it was going to go down to like almost saying like the Saigon type helicopter, which, we've all seen that image. And when I hear that from a guy who obviously was in intel, if you ever really leave, and, has been around, seen this stuff, and it's like, you saw that long before, which means you saw it before that, and other people who are in there have seen it before that. It's like, isn't there a way you could plan this better at least if that's what the fate's going to be?
I don't know. I don't know if it was planned or he just recognized the patterns, right? Like this happened, this happened, this happened. More than likely, this is going to be how we leave due to a pattern I've seen in the past. You would think so. I don't know.
I mean, it was just really, it felt like a full breakdown of the command.
It was sad. It was embarrassing. It was devastating.
Yeah. Now, did you have a lot of guys obviously have had contacts there, like people who gave them intelligence or even interpreters and stuff who helped them? Did you still have connections with any of your guys who were there?
No. I never really was interested nor was even given the opportunity to like bond with any local nationals. It was like, you're interpreters, let's go, boom, boom, boom. And like, that's it.
Right.
I was never really interested in making friends. I was like, I'm here to work. That's it.
Yeah, because there were a lot of dudes who literally, like, as civilians now, went over there.
Yeah.
And were, like, trying to get them out.
Well, there's different. So ODA, Army Unit, their whole thing is like by, through, and with. Like they train foreign nationals and they teach them and they go out and those guys, that's their mission set. Like on paper, like that's what they do. So those guys have really close bonds with guys they've been in gunfights with, have each other's back, probably met their kid or some shit. Mm-hmm. So those guys are like, that's my boy. We didn't roll like that. It was like, you're our interpreter, let's go. Shut up. Carry, like, that's it. Like let's go.
So you didn't have like any see-through to the Afghan army that they were trying to build at the time or anything like that?
We were just going and hitting dudes and coming home.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, some of the stories I've heard, especially like off camera from some of my guys who were involved with that, they're just like, this was fucked, man. They were just, it was low talent. They're like, we were getting, because like, who wants to go into that and then be found out and then your family killed by the Taliban because you're in this army? So they'd get these guys who were just like shitty, and they're like, yeah, we're going to build an army and spread democracy. Didn't work out that way.
Well, and plus, then you had incidents where the good guys they were training with, they'd be out on patrol doing a mission, and it'd be like 3, 2, 1, and they would all turn and start shooting at the Americans. Like that's happened too.
That's crazy.
Wild.
Crazy place. I mean, they say that's the place where like empires fall.
Yeah, it's those dudes and that terrain, the hardest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When you were there, I mean, this is back in like 2008, but as a part of like any of the, I don't know, like intel briefings and precautions, was anyone ever talking about China, given that they were right there on the border, and if things fell into their hands as they have now, like was that a conversation at all at the time?
No, not even a little bit.
Because they have control of bases now, I think, right?
And mines. I think there's like a $88 trillion lithium mine I think they have access to in Afghanistan. I'm not sure.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, here you go. I'm like, dude, we could have mined there. What's up, man? I'll go do security. Let's get it. Yeah.
In this time, though, working with SEAL Team 6, do you feel like, minus the fact you guys have more funding and stuff like that, do you feel like this is another level up? Or did it feel very similar to Team 5?
Another level, for sure. Because, and it's not any knock on any of the other SEAL teams, it's just that the SEAL teams will get new guys straight from training, because that's just you have to. You have to have some tenure to even show up to SEAL Team 6. So there's no new guys. They've already deployed. They already know what you got to do to be a good SEAL. So the fact that there's really no new guys at SEAL Team 6 is that's the difference. Everyone's already moving up to speed. Where at the regular SEAL teams, you always have to start over at the basics because you have to bring in those 2 to 5 new guys each time.
Yeah. And obviously you're in Afghanistan for this whole one, so you're doing a lot of missions there. But, I guess it didn't happen for you, but if you're, say, SEAL Team 6 and you're deploying to Afghanistan on a 6-month rotation, is it possible that during that time, if something goes down somewhere else, you get called in to there and moved, or do you know you're going to be in Afghanistan?
I don't want to go too much in details,
okay,
but there is contingencies for people to do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, when these teams are going out, it's not like you have guys who are on a different rotation from that team.
Exactly.
Too, right?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
So you finish Afghanistan, you come back, same type of situation. Is this when you do sniper school?
No.
What'd you do?
Went to like race car driving school.
There you go.
All kinds of wild shit. Yeah, it was cool. Skydiving a bunch. And then
skydiving.
Yeah, we at the team I was at, we would, and it wasn't fun skydiving. It was like wake up at 1 a.m., put on all your shit, out of the plane at 2 a.m., do it 4 more times. I'm like, man, this is like selection again. This fucking sucks. But the team's like, no, we need to know how to jump. I'm like, God. And then you hear about the other teams. They're like, we're going to Thailand to do a breaching trip. And I'm like, fuck, can we go to Thailand? Like, nope, you're going to go skydive 1,000,000 times. Like, fuck. It's like, can we just do what those guys? Oh, we're going to go hike Kilimanjaro. Cool. We're going to just be in the desert skydiving over and over and over again.
At 2 a.m.
At 2 a.m.
How cold is it up there when you first jump?
It's because I have zero tolerance for cold. I'm the worst. So when we're doing those really, really, really high jumps, it's, I think, and someone can correct me, I think it's -3 degrees every 1,000 feet you go up.
Whoa.
So math,
yeah,
cold, right? That's it.
You get 30,000 feet in the air.
Yeah, that's cold.
Shit's cold up there.
Yeah.
And then I always wondered like how that goes down, because I've never been skydiving myself. Not that the civilian version is anything like that, but they're bringing you up there. You have an objective, obviously, of where they want you to land, right? So you got to learn how to maneuver everything. Like, did they just throw you into that the first time you do it?
God,
or
no.
I was gonna say, I mean, Jesus Christ,
figure it out. No, there's ground school, and they, you have a little board, and you got your compass and your GPS, and like, all right, this is how you get to where you need to go, and you're on night vision, and you got your oxygen mask on, and you can't really turn your head because your risers are coming up, and you have all your shit on. It's just like, fuck. And it's weird because in the SEAL team, right? Room clearing, you're with your boys. Shipboarding, you're with your boys. Like, everything's so group oriented, as it should be. And even though we jump out as close as we can out the plane at night, you don't see anybody until like the last 10 minutes of like being in the sky for 25 minutes. You're under canopy and you're hoping you're going the right direction with your, the plan you had, and you look down on your GPS and you're following the arrow, but you're like drifting left or right, and then you see a little light on the ground, and you're like, oh, is that the lead jumper, or is that the Walmart? Like, fuck, like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. And you just, as you get lower and lower, you either find out it's the Walmart parking lot or you're on course, and then you gotta, if you are on course, and thank goodness I never was too far off course. I always found the rest of the guys under canopy like 5,000 feet and got in the stack and landed. So,
did any of your guys like ever actually land in the Walmart parking lot? Like, hey, hello, sorry.
Oh man, in through selection, we had a guy land so far away he had to pull out his satellite antenna. And call it in. And if you do that twice, you're gone. So
you're gone.
They had to get on quads and trucks and go find him.
When you're doing all this, do you have any idea where you're going to be going next, or is that's still up in the air?
No, because when you're doing these evolutions, because like the plane is either chartered or, we're just there to jump. So you land, get your shit, pack up, get in the van, go back, and do it again. Yeah. And
this is like over a 6-month period, something like that?
For jumping, we'll jump for about a month.
Oh, it's a month.
Yeah.
But like every day? Multiple
times a day. Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe it's a 2-week trip, but it just feels like a month. It's brutal.
I have one buddy who's ex-Special Forces who trains all that stuff now. Like, just gets them out there and does it with like a bunch of, I think, the teams and stuff like that. And I guess the guys on the other end of it have fun with it, tossing you out of the plane.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did you go next after this? Like, you'd been, obviously, like, your career starts off crazy. You start young, you're 18, you're in there by the time you're 20, 21. You go to Iraq at the height of shit. You go to Afghanistan where shit's going down. Like, you're not old. You're 24, 25 at this point, but you feel like a grizzled veteran. So where are they sending you next after this?
Back to Afghanistan.
Back to Afghanistan again.
Yep.
What was going down at the time? Like, just getting worse?
More smashing bad dudes. Yeah.
All right. I feel like this is one you don't want to expand upon. No. So if I'm pressing.
No, bring it. It's just hard, right? It's like, oh, Dan, that's an actual story. I'm like, I don't know. Like, that's what we did.
I don't know. Just shot some people.
Yeah. I mean, it was good. We had one that was kind of sporty.
Sporty.
It was sporty. Yeah. We had one of our dog handlers got shot, and unfortunately the canine died. And they kind of squirted off target, and we were like, fuck, we got to get these guys, but we need to Casevac our boy first. They took off up in the mountains, and we had eyes on from one of the platforms in the sky. So we loaded up the helos and went after them, and they were way up in this ravine, like super high elevation. And I tell people, I was fortunate enough to do a 100-foot fast rope. And they go, well, the fast ropes only come up to 90 feet. And I go, yeah, exactly. There's 10 feet after, you just kept going. Yeah, it sucked. So we fast rope in. I hit the ground. I look down at I'm rocking the saw, right? The belt-fed 5.56 machine gun. I look down, and the ammo box had broken off and just went down like a crevasse. I'm like, well, I'm down 200 rounds. Grab my other, load it up. So we fast roped in. It was sketch, and we start going up the ravine, but like offset, because they're in the ravine, 4 dudes looking down the ravine waiting for us, and it's 3 a.m., 4 a.m. local time, and we take the long route. So we're parallel to where they are now, and we come across over the ridge. And just as we're about to come over the ridge, I hear something that scared the living shit out of me. It was like this roar echoing through the mountain. It's like, roar. And I was like, what the fuck? And I look up and there's an A-10 Warthog. Like, I felt like I could have thrown a rock and hit it. It was so low and it was just echoing, and he was just doing strafing runs on those guys. Yeah. So I was like, oh shit. And then the sun started to come up. I was like, okay. So it was like one of my few daytime engagements out there. We come up over the ridge and, we take an E, like, oh, they're there. Okay, cool. And it's funny. I remember the dog handler with me. He was next to me with his dog, and it was kind of like a 3-2-1 execute. And I pop up with my saw, and I just lay into these guys. And he's trying to get shots off, but his dog's going crazy. So he's like, wants to engage and working his dog. And then after, he's like, fuck, bro, I didn't get to shoot. You shot everybody with your fucking machine. I didn't get to shoot nobody. Sorry, bro. and I was really happy I got to, because I've carried that thing probably like 10 to 12 other times before and never got to shoot it. I said, finally, right? So we got those guys in the valley, in the little ravine, and, I lit up some bushes just to make sure. I'm looking, I see what looks like a log, just like a brown log. And what had happened was we were up here facing these guys down here. One of our reconnaissance guys went around and flanked them from the top of the ravine. And he saw something odd like I saw, and he pulled the trigger, and what happened, he shot a dude right in the tank. Boom. And I hear this god-awful scream, and then I see that brown log turn red, and then this guy does like an atomic sit-up, wham! And I can see his profile right in my EOTech sight picture. And I'm like, brr, and drop him. We get back to the bird. And the reconnaissance guy was like, bro. I'm like, what's up? He's like, dude, I shot that guy. And he's on a magnifier. He's got a scope on his gun. And then when he sat up, I was going to take a headshot, and I was zoomed in on his face. And then all of a sudden, you opened up, and I just off the side. I'm like, man, that's fucking wild. He's like, dude, it was crazy. So, okay, don't be a bad guy. That was it. Yeah.
Gotta be a monster out there.
You gotta be a monster.
It's crazy though, because like the way we get exposed to this stuff is through like video games or like scenes in a movie or whatever. But a lot of these firefights that'll happen, it's not like it's 2 minutes or something like that. They're happening over a period of hours. This one you just described starts at like 3 a.m. and it's happening when the sun's coming up. Yeah. And it's not like that entire time everyone's shooting.
No, you're maneuvering. You're
right.
Okay, we're going to go here, we're going to do this, yeah.
Right. How do you what's going on with the adrenaline during that where you like can kind of maintain that level of like, oh shit, we're in the middle of something, when there's also, all these, I guess, like almost lull times in the middle of the actual action going down. You know what I mean?
You got to have that throttle, man. Throttle up, throttle down. And like you're hungry, like fuck these guys. Like our canine shot, which is just as valuable as a dude, and our dude got shot. Like I'll stay out here for fucking weeks. I don't give a shit. They're going down. Yeah.
Had you up to this point, had you had any of your guys be shot or injured or killed in battle? So that was the first.
That was the first for me, yeah.
What was that like, seeing that?
It's hard because when you're rolling around with like those dudes with night vision and you're like, we're the baddest motherfuckers in the world. Like, we got this. Like, we're untouchable. And then boom, you're like, oh shit, like the bullets do go both ways. Like, damn. It's a wake up call. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that'd be like, because it's someone you're tight with, you train with every day, and then they're this beast, and then suddenly it's like, ooh, we got to get him out of here.
Yeah,
life's in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And you call in like a helicopter for that?
Yep.
Those guys are good.
No, those guys are damn near fucking. They're surgeons. They're like
surgeons.
The pararescue guys are fucking badass. They're like, yeah, we got you.
But they're literally, they're going through like terrain in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
To get that part is crazy.
Yeah, they're badass. I love those guys. Yeah.
So that fight ends because you take the guys out and whatever, and this is another like 6-month deployment to Afghanistan.
Shorter. I think it's 3 months.
Shorter, and you're there the whole time. You're not going anywhere.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but you deployed to other places around the world too, right? Like you talked about the Philippines, but like you were in Iraq and Afghanistan. You went to some other places as well, right?
I mean, I spent some time off the coast of Africa. Yeah.
What was going on there?
American got kidnapped off a ship.
What was that? I don't remember that.
Yeah, Captain Phillips.
Oh, that was Captain Phillips.
Yeah.
You made that sound way different. That didn't go. So you were a part of that one.
Yeah.
What did that like? What were you guys doing there?
So we were on standby, and we got the call. And the day before, I was told I was being trained as a loadmaster and make sure, everybody gets there on time and loads up the planes and get a head count and make sure the weight's good. And when we got the call, all of that went to shit. I mean, the boats were overweight, the planes were overweight. And then I had the manifest. Okay, everyone's here. And then like four guys show up and they're like, move. I'm like, I'm a nobody. I'm an E5 at the time. And they're like, motherfucker, I'm the CO of SEAL Team 6. Get the fuck out of the way. And I'm like, yes, sir. Like, so I'm like, so much for this, piece of paper. It didn't matter. Yeah. Like the head shit. You guys are like, we're not getting on this plane. I'm like, roger that. We fucking flew in, jumped in. I wasn't on the ship that took shots. I was on a different ship. And I didn't realize how big of a deal that mission was. When we got back, it was like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, it was cool when we saved him, but like, all right. Apparently, SEAL Team 6 was created and like their initial mission statement was to be able to do a hostage rescue at sea. And like, it happened and we did it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was badass.
Yeah.
My friend Jim Diorio was ex-Special West Point Special Forces, but at this time he had been a long-time guy at the FBI. So he was one of the dudes like called into that to, I guess like I don't remember if it was like negotiation or whatever. Yeah. But I love when he talks about because I'm like, so what happened? He's like, fucking painted the floor, bro. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, I mean, it means what it means. They got taken out.
Yeah, that's it.
Quick and dirty work. But that was like a whole, obviously they made the movie and it became a famous story. But was there like, outside of them just taking it hostage, was there also like some stuff with that ship that made it a little different too? Or was it just a straightforward hostage thing?
Apparently when they took it, they're like, oh, we thought this was a French vessel. And it was like, too fucking bad. It's not. Like, no take backsies, bud. Like, you're fucked. Yeah. And then they eventually moved him to that rescue boat, which is very small and very tight quarters. And, the boys who took the shot took awesome shots. And, yeah, they made it work.
And how long were you guys there for?
We stayed longer than we probably should have. Because, we had all of our shit. We're right there. And there's like intel, there's pirate camps. Like, are we going to just turn this into like a go smash pirates now for the next month or so?
Pirate camps?
Oh, yeah. Like legit pirate camps up and down the coast. So we were like, all right, let's go. And then
let's go.
They're like, nah, not approved. Okay, go home.
So it was just the boat.
It was just that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be like because, it's, I imagine you're talking about Somalia. Like, it's another country, too, so you're going into this country.
Exactly.
You're going to smash it. Geopolitical
but
implications.
Like, well, they're here. We're really close. Yeah. It'd be really convenient. Yeah. And I was all about it. I'm like, let's go. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever go somewhere, like the places you're talking about are all some level of, like, crazy shit going down. Did you go somewhere that you wouldn't have expected to go while you were we're going to get to after the teams, but while you were in the teams that you're like, oh, we're doing a mission there?
No. All pretty standard.
All standard Warzone stuff. And where was your last rotation before you became a trainer?
In Afghanistan.
So that was the one in 2009.
Yeah.
What made you want to stop and become a trainer?
There was a little bit of fallout at the command I was at SEAL Team 6, and then the war started changing. When halfway through my time there, we had to bring 5 indigenous with us, troops.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we can manage that. You 5 sit in the back, stay out of the way. Don't point your AKs at the back of my head. And then as that evolved, it was more, and then it turned into like, okay, 5 of you guys can go with X amount of them. It's like, whoa, what are we doing here? And then we'd see all this crazy shit like can you guys not wear body armor? You look too intimidating. Can you guys not work at night because that's very scary for the locals? Like all this crazy shit. I'm like, what? So I think a lot of guys saw that writing on the wall. And when I had even the smallest turmoil at my team, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going back to California because I'm from California. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
And this is before the Bin-Laden raid.
Yep.
And all that. So that none of that was even a thought at this time, right? Like
I mean, well, Bin-Laden was always a thought.
He was a thought, but like that mission itself to go to Abbottabad didn't exist yet.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So some of the guys, it's fair to say though that the guys who were on that mission are guys you worked with extensively.
Oh yeah.
All of them or most of them?
I mean, except for the new guys that came except for the new guys that came after I left, I didn't know them, but like the core team, yeah.
Did you get some FOMO on that one?
No, everyone asked me like, no, I'm actually happy for them. Like, good. And when you decide to leave something, leave it.
Yeah.
Right?
I wouldn't think you're not happy for them. I'm just like, you'd be sitting there like, damn, I wish I was on that one with them.
I only feel that way when like something bad happens. Like, man, maybe I could have been a difference maker. Maybe so-and-so wouldn't have got hit or whatever. That's the only time I'm actually genuinely happy for dudes going out and doing awesome things. I'm like stoked for them. Because I know through my timing, I got so lucky. So go get some.
Yeah.
Yeah, go get it.
It's also amazing that they got out of there unscathed considering what happened with the Black Hawk on the way. Like that whole thing is unbelievable. Like how that went down.
Wild.
Yeah. And why is there like, I got to be honest, I don't really pay attention to it, so I don't know a ton of details, but there's all these like in the background you see these internet arguments about like, well, you didn't shoot Bin Laden or it was actually him or like what's the deal there?
I have no idea. And here's what I say. Unless one guy flies out by himself and does something, then you can say you did something, right? You can be like, yeah, I was the first one to shoot him or this, but to me, like, you're flying on Army helicopters, you have support with the PJs and combat controllers, and there's SEAL Team 6 there. Like, America killed him, right? Like we all did as a team. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Now, if guys want to say, well, I was the first guy to put a round, I was second, like, then that's for them to argue out. I'm not interested in it, but I do know that some of them feel very strongly about it. So if they want to argue that point, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember where you were when that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Where were you?
I was in Pacific Beach, San Diego, and I got a encrypted weird text from somebody, and I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, really. And this was at like 10:30 a.m. So I called up all my boys in San Diego, and I said, hey, leave work. We're going to go to the bar. And I took them out, and they're like, what's going on? Because I don't think it was announced till like 11:45 that night.
It wasn't. You're 10:30 a.m. West time, which is 1:30 a.m. East time. It got announced during Sunday Night Baseball with the Phillies and I want to say the Mets at maybe like 8:15.
Yeah.
Something. So that'd be 5:15 your time. So you knew about it like 7 hours before.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And they're like, what? They're like, Dirty, are you sure? I'm like, bro, like, I'm sure. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And then we were on the bar and they saw it. They're like, holy fuck. I'm like, I told you. I told you. I told you. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was wild. It was fun. It was a cool day.
I was going to say like that. I
was proud,
Right?
Yeah.
Like you're in it too. But like as a civilian, what was so cool about that day is there was no politics. Everyone was like, we fucking got him, bro.
Yeah.
And I wonder if today it would be like that.
No. Because it's cool to fucking be a shithead and just go the opposite direction of everyone else.
Yeah.
Just so you can feel special and post it on Instagram.
100% true, man. I don't know how we got there.
I don't think because it's easy, right? If you wanted to be famous back in the day, you had to be on a Wheaties box. That's waking up at 4 a.m. being the best in the fucking world at a discipline. Now, you can just say some wild shit. I don't think half the people even really believe what they're protesting, but now they're special. Now they're part of a tribe. Yeah. Now they can have more followers. it's not waking up at 4 a.m. to get yourself on a Wheaties box and get a gold medal.
That's right.
It's just being controversial. Boom. Now you're a fucking influencer.
And you're incentivized to do that too.
Yes.
You're not incentivized. Like, I saw this weird thing happen politically, like in the 2010s, where it started on the left side, where like if you were on the left and you said one thing that was like against them, they kicked you off and they called you right. And then eventually the same thing infected to the right side. Mm-hmm. And so now when I look online, you know, politics is even like so cloudy with all the different wars going on around the world. And there's some weird alliances there for sure. But you see people who, you know, let's say they're looking into maybe some conspiracy or something like that. They're incentivized to, at the end of looking into it, be like, see, it's a conspiracy, the full thing. I just proved it. Yeah. They're not incentivized to be like, well, I researched this, and actually there's not much there.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. And that, I don't know when we fully jumped the shark on that, but as someone who worries a lot about free speech and people who may want to take that away, man, not that it's ever right to do that. I'm like, man, are you giving them some leverage to be like, see?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No. That really concerns me a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think that changed when the extreme left and right was like, you said this, you're not with us, and you're that. Me, I'm pro-choice, right? But no one's going to take my guns. But right. I've also been at Bass Pro Shops buying ammo, watch a guy buy a gun that should not have had a gun. So
you're what we call reasonable.
Yeah, exactly, right? But to the left, they're like, oh, he has a gun, he's bad. And to the right, like, oh, he's pro-choice, he's bad. So like, whatever.
It's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's and like it's gotta be frustrating for someone like you who's seen the real shit, seeing people fight over bullshit here.
It's so frustrating. It's really saddening to where as of right now, I'm just avoiding it. I'm just trying not, because I'm trying to work on other things and move forward with my life. But I know the answer isn't ignoring it, but I want to be in a spot to like, okay, really take it in and then ask the real question, is there anything I can actually do about it?
Well, unfortunately on many things, it's like you can't.
I mean, you can go and vote for your local leader. Like you can do stuff. You can run for office. I mean, Latrell, Eli Crane, like a bunch of dudes have gone and said, fuck it, I'm going to go do it. Yeah. And they have. And get on them.
Yeah, but at the same time, and this isn't taken away from guys like that or whatever, but it's like, you know, my friend Tommy G has this quote. You ever seen his channel? YouTube channel? I'll show you that after. He's great. He does amazing documentaries. But he's like, I can't boil the ocean, but I can boil my pot. And I'm like, all right, that's actually, I like that. Yeah, that's like a little life motto of mine, because sometimes it's like, you know, I'm just a content creator and I see all of these problems. I see these things happening, but it's like, what am I going to be, the fucking Nelson Mandela of the world to like, no, that's not what it is. But if there's like a little, whatever it is, little piece you can do here in some sort of good way that generally affects society in a good way, or if like some of your boys who served are like, hey, I can run for office, I feel like I can enact some, at least a few good things, good on them. Like same. that's I think that's the best we can do. I just hope we get to a point where maybe some of the overall leadership attracts personalities that aren't like they are right now. Yeah. If you get what I mean.
But here's a problem though. To get to that point, you have to be that way. You have to be a politician.
Yes. Yeah. It's the incentive structure again.
If we can have all of our politicians not actual politicians, that'd be great.
Yeah. Term limits though too. Like that's the biggest thing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You got people in fucking Senate
forever.
They're dying on the floor. They're like,
no, literally. Yeah. It's fucking, well, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I understand when people are like, oh, if you had term limits on everything, the government would have way too much turnover or whatever. Look, there's going to be negative with anything you do. But, like, look at what we got right now and ask yourself, is it working? Is it trending in the right direction?
Is it time to maybe try to make some adjustments?
Yeah. But they're not incentivized to make those adjustments because the people who vote on the laws are the people who want to stay there forever.
Yeah. Who watches the Watchmen, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's so tough. There's another story I've told on the podcast a bunch. My friend Andy Bustamante told it, but he was in the CIA if he ever left, and I guess he was like getting his master's in Florida, and this is probably like a decade ago, And so they had the local congresswoman come in and talk to the class. And at the end of the class, you know, these are all her constituents too. She's like, is there anything you'd like me to take back to D.C. to vote on it? And he like looks around, he raises his hand, and he goes, yes, I'd like you to take term limits back. And she goes, I'm not going to do that. And he looks around and goes, well, where are your constituents? Is everyone else with me? They're like, yeah. And she's like, oh, she doesn't have to do it though.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's career suicide for her.
It's
She's the one
suicide.
person that's not going to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, God, that makes me so like cynical when I hear shit like that. Because it's like, will it change?
And that's what I'm trying to avoid is being cynical. Like, I'm like, okay, I know it exists. I'm not in a place right now to address it and see if I can actually do something. So I'm going to keep focusing on me, what I have going on, and keep that on the back burner.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have been talking about the Bin-Laden raid before we got on this tangent and everything. And that was like May 2011. So during this time, you're in what, like that 2-3 years where you're a trainer? Something
right
like
at the end of my time there as a trainer. So like I'm at that 1.5, 2 year mark. So shortly after is when I got out.
So at this point you're thinking about getting out? Like it's an active thought?
No, I went to the recruiter's office, the career counselor's office on base, and everyone was getting this big fat, like $85,000 re-enlistment. And I'm like, that's nice. And I knew I should be close for re-enlistment. So I went in there. I'm like, hey, can I get this? Am I up for it? She's like, you're up for re-enlistment, but not this bonus. I said, well, why? Well, you took a program that you got early rank and it extended you when you were back at SEAL Team 6 and you didn't dissolve it in time. So yeah, you missed out. I'm like, there was like instant rage. I was like, motherfucker. But then there was instant clarity because I didn't have to make a decision. I knew what the decision was. It's time for me to leave. Yeah.
And you've been in what, like 7-8 years at this point?
10,
like that?
11, 12.
10, 11, 12.
10, a little over 10 years, yeah.
Okay, so this is like 2013 then?
Yeah, 2012, 2013, yeah.
So you leave the teams, but you know, again, you're like still really young because you got in there really young. Like you got your whole life in front of you here. Did you know what you wanted to do?
No, but I kept that close hold because I'm like, I'm getting out. Like that's bullshit. I can't believe I missed out on that fucking re-enlistment, and I'm getting out. So when you get out, you have to take a paper around at your command, and you have to sign out of every department. And then when I was going to go see the commanding officer, I wore a 3-piece suit, you know, because I wanted to show them that I had some cool shit going on. But I had no plan. I had no plan. So
you got a fake Rolex.
Yeah, the whole, I was like,
Street.
yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah. He didn't give a fuck. He didn't ask about it. He's like, yeah, here you go, get the fuck out of here. I was like, oh, damn it. So got out, went home, took off my fucking stupid suit, and sat around like, what the fuck am I going to do now? Yeah.
Now, was there any thought in your head of like, okay, well, I have weapons of war skills. There's got to be a way I can put that to work.
So initially, I was like, once I leave the teams, I'm leaving it. I'm leaving that world. Like I've seen too many guys get out and come crawling back because they're like, oh, I'm gonna go to Wall Street. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go get my MBA at Wharton. I'm gonna go do blah, blah, blah,
fuck that.
Yeah. But they would say it, and then you'd see them 2 years later. It's like, what's up, bro? Like, oh yeah, I missed the brotherhood. Come back in. And I'm like, that's sad. I never want to be that guy. I'm gonna go and make my own way. And I was like, well, I need a job. So from the time I was 18 to when I got out, yeah, I had a job, but I didn't feel like a job. And every 2 weeks, no matter if I was home on leave for Christmas or in the jungle or wherever, every 2 weeks, money would just show up.
That's right.
That when that stops happening, you're like, holy shit, I need to like have a job.
Right.
The money just doesn't appear on the 1st and 15th anymore. It's like, it's a wake up call. So I'm like, fucking, I heard about this company doing anti-piracy escorts.
Anti-piracy.
Yeah. It's like big container ships coming down through the Suez Canal. You jump on those, you and a team of 3 dudes, 8-hour rotation.
Shoot to kill.
So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go. This is awesome. Did it for on and off for like 6 months. Didn't see a pirate. Just fucking staring at the ocean. Fucking bored as hell. I'm like, this is fucking dumb. It was lonely and boring. And I was like, man, this sucks. But the money was good. And I'm like, fuck, dude, this ain't it. And
who are you working with? on that? Like
They
guys,
were all ex-SEALs.
all ex-SEALs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Initially, and then in the contracting world, there's rebidding, and then now you have like some foreign nationals that are like Thailand SEALs. Like so, and then you're like, fuck, and then the wages get cut because the big company, they're a great company, they're keeping it alive still. So it's like, it's not what it was. And I'm like, man, this is I am not built for the ocean at all. And as a Navy SEAL, it's horrible. Like if I see waves, I get nauseous. If I'm on a boat, I'm throwing up.
You're in the wrong business.
I know, man. I know. Luckily, I was in Afghanistan and Iraq. But I mean, but when you're on the big ship, it doesn't really move. But like, I don't feel comfortable being in the middle of nowhere on a huge body of water. No thanks. Right. Yeah. So I was like, all right, this ain't it. And then I swallowed my pride and I became one of those guys that came crawling back. I called the Reserve SEALs team and I'm like, hey, it's me.
How does that work? The Reserve SEAL.
So there's
SEAL
two
team.
Reserve SEAL teams.
Idea to me.
Yeah. There's two Reserve SEAL teams, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. So I called and I was like, hey, what do you guys think? Can I come? Like, yeah. So did all my physical, and I was the guy that said I was going to go make it with my 3-piece suit when I checked out, and I'm coming back to fucking be an active reserve at the SEAL Team 17. Yeah. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, I don't understand. So I hear about the reserves. Usually it's like the National Guard or stuff like that. So what's the parallel there with the Navy SEALs? Like, what makes you different on SEAL 17 as a reserve versus SEAL Team 3 or something like that?
So the only difference is when you're not mobilized or activated, you're doing your 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, like typical reserve stuff. And then when I was there, it was like, hey, you have 5 years of being able to do that, but after that, you need to mobilize and do a deployment and do what SEAL Team 17's mission was at the time. So I'm like, okay, well, I need a job. And they're like, great, we're trying to mobilize. If you want to mobilize early, we can mobilize you right away. So right when I joined, they mobilized me. And they're like, okay. Well, before that, actually, I'm like, hey, how can I need money.
Like, First and 15th.
This is the thing. I need the money part. Money me, please, right? I was like, fuck. So how do we do this? And they're like, hey, language school. There's a language school on base that gets funding from Big Navy, and it doesn't come from SEAL Team 17's money. And the language school, they don't want to close. So they need people to use it, and they need people to use the budget.
Oh.
So SEAL Team 17's like, we have no money for you. I'm like, I'll go to do a language. I'm like, hey, what language you guys have? Like, we have Russian. Fine, let's do it. 3 months on orders, paid in full, learning Russian 101.
Do you speak Russian now?
I did pretty well a while ago. Yeah.
That's impressive. So only like 90 days and you get pretty damn good at it.
Yeah, pretty good. But I mean, it was 90 days, 1-on-1, 8 hours a day.
Yeah, that's
with
nice.
Like a hardcore, like old school Soviet chick. She just was not. I'd come in and try to do small talk, and she'd just be like, "Yeah, sit down." I'm like, "Fuck,
sit down."
So fuck. Yeah, it was brutal. It was good. I learned, and then that ran up, and I was like, "Okay, can I go to school?" And yeah. All right, I want to go to sniper school. I never had time.
Oh, this is when you did that.
So
okay.
I called my buddy, guys who I known forever, and they're running sniper school. Like, yeah, dude, come on out. And SEAL Team said, I begged, and they cut the check to put me on orders to go do that. So that was awesome.
Yeah, where'd you go for that?
Indiana.
Yeah, that's like pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of guys just said Indiana in here. Okay. And what is that, like 8 weeks, something like that?
I forget. I mean, you do a couple weeks in Coronado, and then you go out there. I think 2 months, something like that.
So obviously you were well trained with a gun and had carried that around and been there, done that. But sniping is it's such an art form. It's such a whole different kind of thing.
So I realized if I think I'm great at something, I'm probably good.
Yeah.
At best, because I am a really good shot, but when I got behind the sniper rifle, I realized it's a whole different thing. Yeah. And I ate some humble pie at sniper school, because a lot of the kids that were in sniper school with me were kids I put through training as an instructor.
Oh, shit.
And they're like, oh, what's up, Instructor Corbett? I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? And like, man, we thought you'd be better. I'm like, yeah, me too. Fucking shut up.
Were you in there with Taylor?
No.
This would have been, he was in there. I think he was one of the guys. Maybe I'm
we
didn't
go. I don't think we went to sniper school together.
But you didn't go together. But I'm pretty sure he went out to Indiana and was in sniper school.
Yeah, there's a class every.
Okay,
whatever.
got it. That would have been funny.
Yeah, so I was like, fuck, man, students who think I'm a legend. I'm out here missing shots. I'm like, fuck, man. I got to get better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, the as the distances go up and everything, the whole like the science of the curvature of the earth, the wind.
The wind,
oh
dude.
my God.
So they teach you to use all these electrical devices, right? And it's like, oh, it's this here and this. And I'm like, dude, I've come to the determination that fucking calling wind is voodoo magic. Like, throw the chicken bones, hold 3 left. It's like, well, the thing's saying 4 right. Like, just listen to the fucking chicken bones, bro. Because this is black magic. Because you can do exactly what it says and miss.
Yeah.
Because the wind could be doing this here and then doing that, doing the opposite direction at the 300-yard mark, and then doing 3/4 of that opposite direction at the 800 yards. So like you're like 2 -1 +1. Like it's a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like you're not dealing with any of that when you're shooting out in Afghanistan.
I mean, I never got to be deployed as a sniper, but I can't imagine like you have all the time in the world to be like, like you kind of got to feel it. Like, I know that's the wind. It's gusting right now. Is it going to gust again by the time the bullet gets there? Like, it's crazy. The guys who are really good at it, it's very impressive to watch them even just go through the whole process.
But like also the breath work of the actual shot.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you move a millimeter, just like yourself, you throw off the whole like I had Danny Hall demonstrate like how to do that. It's like,
yeah,
like every time, like a direct motion like that. Did you develop a cadence?
Yeah. Having the trigger break on your natural respiratory pause at the bottom of your breath, right? Like, bang. And I think through video games and movies, people get it backwards. There's like, you hold a button and you hold your breath. Like, no, you want to exhale. Nothing, bang.
That's crazy though, because that means you have to be in this like Zen calmness to do it, right?
And that's with anything, like we talked about earlier. It's like going into a house breaching. It's not, let's fucking go. Right. It's like, all right, let's go.
But you're still, when you do that though, you're still moving, right?
Yeah.
You're moving. You may be calm, but there's motion, you're all around, and you're in the middle of a commotion.
Yeah.
If I look at something like what we saw recently with the July 13th Trump attempted assassination, you're talking about snipers in the middle of a 13,000 person crowd where bullets are flying at a former president. Yeah. Shit is crazy. And that guy has to be presence of mind zen enough to be like,
yeah.
Instead of like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's the difference between a professional and non-professional.
Whoa.
Right? Yeah.
Like mad respect for that.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good shot.
Apparently it was a really good shot because behind the bullet, he had to drop it in.
Yeah. That's like, it's a whole different thing. But that's cool. You got to eventually do that.
Yeah, so I did that, and then we mobilized, and I got to deploy to Korea for 6 months. And
you went to Korea?
Learned Korean, ate a bunch of awesome food.
What's the food like in Korea?
Meat and kimchi.
Like that.
Yes.
I like that.
Well, then I was like, hey, can we get to more like roughage, bro? Because I can't just eat fucking pounds of meat at night. I need something to help move things along. Here's kimchi. I'm like, I love kimchi, but like, do we have anything green? You're like, here's more pork belly. Okay, fine, fuck it, give me the pork belly.
How long were you in Korea?
6 months.
And what was the? I mean, obviously it's not North Korea, but it's right there. Like what was the thought process being there?
It was funny because we were going through the loadout, and at the time I was running the ordnance department, and I'm like, hey, we're bringing all these training weapons, but like, we're Navy SEALs. We need to bring our guns too. No, we don't need that. North Korea is right there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like, no. We deploy over there. We start doing a big joint training exercise that happens every year, and North Korea starts like posturing. It's a big posture. Like, oh, we're going to put our missiles here. We're going to do a test. I get a call from from one of the guys at the team that we're on deployment with. I was at the soccer field playing soccer, and they're like, hey, can you put together a list again of like the real stuff that we need? I'm like,
damn it! I told you.
Yeah, we could have been on this plane, but I guess it'll be here next week. All right, yeah.
That's gotta be creepy though. You got a crazy guy right
with
there
with like damn near nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
And then you have this metropolis that looks like a fucking future when you land in South Korea and you get on the bullet train. There's like all the neon lights and shit. I'm like, holy fuck. Yeah. And you have this place where people are starving to death right across the street. It's wild.
And he's got some nukes.
And he has nukes.
You know, I'm very grateful that has never popped off. But that one, that's one sometimes at night I think
scary
about a little bit because I'm like, he really doesn't give a fuck. Like they live in a separate reality there.
100%.
What like because you said it was joint stuff, so you're with the Koreans and everything too.
ROK, Republic of Korean SEALs, and it's cool because that's the first time I've seen a unit in another country have like as much pride. Like they got like the old UDT underwater demolition team statues, and like Navy SEALs like really prestigious there even for them. So it's cool. It's cool. Like, oh, you guys have like a culture around it also,
and they're good to work with.
Yeah.
But how did they view that? Because like obviously they've grown up in it. This has been their reality their whole life. There's this little country right on the other side of the border that they fought a war with 60, 70 years ago at the time.
Yeah.
That has all these nukes and they're crazy and they starve their people. Like what did you have any like intense conversations with them about what that is to them?
No, I mean a little bit, but they're torn, right? Because they're like, do they want a unified Korea? Do they just want to keep it the way it is and just hope that nothing happens? So we get a little bit of both.
Yeah, and this is before. Yeah, Trump didn't visit that guy till like 2018, I think.
Yeah,
right?
I think.
So like none of that's happened yet. This is when he's like still Rocket Man.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Rocket Man, yeah.
But it was interesting that I don't know if they ever confirmed it officially because it was like president to president, but the implied and widely believed thing that Obama told Trump when Trump was coming in and they had a private conversation about like his number one concern, it was strongly implied that it was North Korea with nukes, which was interesting to me because again, like, it's a smaller country, economically not meaningful, but they do sit on this very powerful thing and don't give a fuck. And you have an outgoing president who, during the times you're talking about right now, because that's when Obama's in there, he was concerned about it enough that he's like, yo, to the next guy, this is the number one thing I want to worry about. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we can do all the planning we want, but if a nuke lands, like we have all of our weapons and machine guns that we brought over, but I'm a shadow burnt into a building right now, so it doesn't matter.
Did you guys ever, as far as like maybe, I don't know, hypothetical scenario training goes within the teams, did you guys ever plan for a situation where, for example, somewhere a nuke goes off and you guys are called in to take care of cleanup?
We do full on cutouts, which is you wear your mop gear, you got your gas mask on with the ventilator, microphone, like you got all this shit on, fully enclosed gloves, and there's certain sites we train at, like if someone's making mustard gas or some of the chem bio nuke stuff or radiation, it's called, and we've done training where you run around with a Geiger counter on. It's like, oh, it's in this room, and you've got to suit up.
What's a Geiger counter again? I'm blanking.
It's it's the thing that measures the radiation. So like when you get close to the nuke, it's like you're like, oh shit. Yeah. But we've done it in training, and it's a huge ordeal because you have to put on all this shit. You do the training mission, and then our EOD guys who are super smart on this shit, especially at SEAL Team 6, they set up these stations. And one by one, you walk in, there's charcoal you have to dust on yourself, and you take a step, and it's all marked by chem lights. They take off your mask, cut you out. It's like this whole long process to be decontaminated, and it takes all night because everybody has to be meticulous. So we trained for it. It sucks because you have we're already wearing a bunch of fucking gear. Throw a gas mask on with a ventilator and all this shit. It's just, and you're just fogging. It sucks. It sucks.
I mean, those are scenarios, and obviously you have to do it. That does sound like it sucks, but again, you went into these places where shit goes down, right? It might not be a nuke or something, but you're in South Korea, and there's a concern about that while you're there. So there's a reality you have that no disrespect to me, but I'm not getting that when I'm on Twitter, just hearing about something, you know what I mean? Halfway around the world, do you ever feel like from your seat and from the things you've seen, society, people have no idea how fragile and how on edge things are at all times? Or do you feel like there's some sort of order that keeps things balanced and like, yes, we got to worry about these threats, but they're probably not going to happen?
Two parts of that. I don't think about it too much how I view different than what other people view. I mean, I did initially when you join the Navy and you're 18, I'm going through the pipeline and I'm filling out a will at 18.
Filling out what?
A will.
Oh, a will. Yeah.
And like, didn't realize when I went home, visit all my high school friends, like, they're like, what? Why would you do that? Like, so you're already doing things and being exposed to things that aren't normal at the time, right? So making sure you have your mop level gear and your gas mask loaded up when you go to Korea is just normal. It's just a normal thing. I think in some aspects we are like on a razor's edge for something really bad happening, but at the same time, I think there's a lot more to lose on either side, whether it be between two countries or two separate parties. There's enough mutually assured destruction and ties, either financial, economical, that they're both going to lose so much if they take that one step extra. No.
I had a long, really good back and forth with Sean Ryan when he was on my show about the power grids, because he knows so much about that stuff. And, you know, like you, he comes from that background, so he's thinking about stuff I don't even consider. But, you know, that has always been in the back of my head, that it's like, okay, if country X decided to hit our power grid somewhere here and killed millions of people or something like that, what could we do to them?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like I know, for example, Russia has had this power for a long time. Like they were testing this on Ukraine in like 2014, 2015. Had Andy Greenberg in here, episode 99, telling us all about it. Like he wrote a book about it called Sandworm. But like they haven't done that here, because not that you should ever think like this, but it harkens back to the times of like the nuclear panic in the 60s, where you literally had people in the U.S. State Department. I think this was a very wrong way to look at stuff, but they looked at things like, oh, well, if they did it, we'd lose 60, but they'd lose 240. We win.
Yeah.
You know, and technically you do, but it's like, holy shit, 300 million people and 60 of your own just died. I don't want you thinking like that. But there is that mutually assured, to use your term, mutually assured destruction thing that gives, say, these other powers that might not like us that pause.
Yeah. It's like, hey, if you do this, you have to weigh the repercussions, and they go, oh, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Let's go pick on a smaller country. Yeah.
What about like biologic weapons though and stuff? Did you do things preparing for that?
It's all the same stuff. You wear the same suit. Apparently, I talked to some EOD guys and like, dude, there's stuff out there that it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You're fucking done. I'm like, oh, that's good to know. I'll still put it on and I feel brave enough to go do the mission as my skin's melting off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, don't tell me that, dude. There's some things like I'm okay being ignorant to that.
Yeah.
Let me feel safe in my little rubber suit.
And then you go quickly.
And then I die. I'm
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
At least I won't be thinking about it the whole time, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. That's the other one that scares me, though, because that's the shit you really can't even see. You know?
No.
Like, there's been all these movies and shows. I remember like 24 had like sarin gas or whatever, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we've seen that deployed in Syria and how bad that is. But like, you could just like someone could stick something in a train station out here and spreads to the whole system. Gone.
Yeah. Wild.
It's scary.
Scary.
Yeah.
It's almost so scary. I just don't even want to accept that it's a thing.
Right.
Just walk around scared all the time.
Were you ever like in some sort of intel briefing where you were just like, holy shit?
No.
Everything
was pretty cut and dry. Well, the first deployment in Iraq, they're like, make sure you bring your gas mask on this one. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Guess I'll bring my gas mask on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were worried about Saddam.
Yeah. Deploying some stuff. Yeah.
Danny Hall was saying, I hope I remember this right when I had him in here. He and Ryan Tate, they were two guys who were in Iraq. Danny Hall was a sniper in the teams or in Spec Ops, and then Ryan was a recon Marine. But they're, the whole like WMD thing with Iraq, obviously he didn't have nukes, but they did both say that he did have biologics and they had access to that.
Yeah.
So that was real. And that's scary. A guy like that having that. I mean, we've seen what Assad has done.
Yeah.
That's the shit, they don't talk about on Fox and CNN. They don't fight over that stuff.
I can't. I can't with the media right now. I can't.
Do you ever get asked to go on like any of those main channels?
I will say this. When I did the book launch, I have a book.
Let's plug it. Let's give the name. We're going to have the link in description.
American Mercenary. Pick it up on Amazon and buy it. It's awesome.
Anything else in the works there?
Yeah, I got some other stuff going on.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Talking to a big studio, maybe doing an adaptation of the book to screen. So we'll see.
Let's go.
It's going well.
Okay.
So we'll see.
But you were saying you were talking about in your book with something with the media?
Yeah, so the marketing, marketing plan to get your book out there, and we can get you on these networks. I said, look, I don't want to even appear on network A or network B. Because if I appear on network B and someone turns on the TV, they're going to go, he's that all the way. If they turn on the TV in 1 second and they see I'm on network A, they go, he's that all the way. And I'm not any of those all the way. So I said, just keep me away from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing the independent media is good for you.
Yeah, let's do independent.
It's a good style for you.
Yeah.
But you do have to go out there, like especially with books. That's a hard business. I have guys in here all the time pushing books. Like everyone's got a great story, but you got to put yourself out there and get people to want to learn more.
2 point, right? If I say that's not worth it to me, I'm not going to do it. Like, oh, you're going to lose it on book sales. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not going to sell my soul or put myself in a situation because I might get 50 more book sales or whatever it is. I don't care. I don't care enough to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been kind of putting it off all day, but let's get to the second half of your career, if you will, here. So just for a timeline in my head, you were with Team 17 in Korea. Was that the last, deployment you did?
Yep.
And that's 2014, something like that?
2014, 15, yeah.
Okay. So when you come home, is that when you go, I'm out? Or did that take another year or two?
I come home, I'm doing the, hustling, trying to see where pots of money are at SEAL Team 17 to keep going to more schools, right? I'm like, what about this, what about that one? I think I even jump on one of those container ships one more time just to go get some scratch, right? Make some money. And during this time, I get a phone call. It's like, hey, are you out? I go, yeah, I'm out. He's like, we're doing some pretty wild stuff, like some dynamic, cool shit. And I said, yeah, I don't believe. He's like, meet me for dinner. I said, okay. Went back into SEAL Team 17. I said, hey, am I going to be able to get into this particular school I wanted to go to? And they're going to get funding for it. They're like, oh, yeah, dude, you're a shoo-in. Cool. I put off dinner meeting with the other guy, and then the next day they came in. They're like, sorry, man. Someone from SEAL Team 18, they filled it, that billet. And I said, okay. So I called the guy. I said, all right, I'll meet you for dinner. Let's talk about this cool shit you have going on.
Who is this guy?
A guy I knew from the SEAL teams.
Okay.
Yeah. So I meet up with him, and he's like, hey, we're doing this, and this. It's fucking dynamic. It's crazy. And I go, I'm not buying it. I don't believe it. He's like, okay, I want you to meet the Prime.
The Prime?
The Prime. The guy who has the contract. Come meet him tomorrow night up in Rancho Santa Fe. Super rich area of San Diego. Okay. Show up, hear him out. A lot of measuring each other. Like, what is this bullshit? I'm like, where's the money coming from? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I can tell I'm asking him too many questions, but he's like, listen, it's all legit. It's a real deal. Are you in? I said, if I'm in, when do we leave? He's like, next Friday. I said, I'll think about it. He's like, oh, and if you say yes, you're going to have 20 grand wired in your account by the time you get home. I was like, fuck.
Sign me the fuck up, boy.
Let's go. And then at 12:01, midnight plus 1, I get an alert, deposit made. And I was like, fuck, I guess I'm going. Whoa. Yeah.
No, I'm trying. I could tell there's some stuff you can't really say there for sure. So if I delve into some things like that, just tell me. But what is who is this guy?
All right, so this guy is a dear friend of mine, ex-Israeli Special Forces, badass dude. And he put together a team. We fly into Yemen, and we're working with the Emirati Special Forces, UAE.
As a mercenary.
Yes, as a mercenary, training them to be able to go do Special Forces type missions. And that's how it started, was us training with them. And we tried to do some practice runs that did not go well.
What do you mean?
Let's go out in town. Let's train for this mission out in town, not next to the bad guy's house, but near it. And the communications were wrong. Like, it just was a fucking train wreck. And I eventually got to the point where I said, fuck it, just let me roll out. I'll do it. I'll do it myself. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I was like, fuck it. Like, this is too easy.
Yeah.
He's right there. Let's go get him. It's like, no, you can't, because it has to be with them.
Right.
Okay, give me 2 and just have him stay with the car. Right? Like, no. So we spun up a couple times to go do some stuff, and like last minute, we get a call. Hey, hold off on that. We're like, what the fuck? And while this is going on in Yemen, I'm like, getting super frustrated, and I'm coming up with a game plan, because the guys we're working with, they're not able to operate at the level I'd like to be able to go with, right? So I said, can we sell them like a 6-month pipeline? I'll run it. I'll run these guys. And so that went up the chain of command. And towards, it was the end, but one night we're all outside, then we start to hear snaps. Pop, 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 snap, snap, overhead. And like, and our base was like 1 mile by 1 mile. That was a square mile. HESCO barriers full of sand. And we hear the Colombians, there's a Colombian mercenary contractors on the guard tower, just fucking opening up. Like, bop, 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 bop. And then we hear boom. Like, I think 3 vehicle-borne explosives went off. Like, boom. And like, I was on top of the HESCO barrier, and I like flopped up. Boom. I was like, damn, that's close. And we can tell the explosions were getting closer and closer. They were getting through each checkpoint. And the way it was to get in the base, S turns and checkpoint. So there's like, car 1, boom, okay. And then car 2 would get to the second checkpoint. So they were working their way to the base. And if they got in, there was nowhere to fucking go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are these Houthi forces? Okay.
Yeah. So the Colombians up there, they have like 40 mics, machine. They're just unloading everything. Just fucking. We get up there, I'm like, hey, what are you guys shooting at? There's an empty field with a couple bodies, and then there's a giant boulder. They're like, dude, there's one guy behind the boulder. I'm like, that's it? It's fucking just like, are you trying to break the boulder with your guns? Like, what are you doing?
See.
Yeah, see. Then all of a sudden, I hear an Apache just come in overhead, and just dip down, just burp, and then take off. Well, that was that. And then shortly after, that was the end of that contract. So fast forward.
Real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just, for how I understand this, I've had like Dale Comstock in here, who's like the most recognized mercenary in the world. But it still confuses me what the legality is on some of this, like if there's gray area, because I mean you're dropping into areas that would be considered somewhat war zones and whatever, but you're not representing a government, you're representing a private contractor, and you're fully fucking kitted up with weapons. So
that's where you can be gray and not gray. Okay. Say I'm advising and assisting these people on this thing. Okay. Now, if I'm advising and assisting, and then something bad happens while we're out, and I pick up a rifle to defend myself, are you going to really prosecute me?
Oh, I see.
Like an intent versus. So it is gray, 100%.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a dance for sure.
All right, but you were saying this one, that was the end of this
deployment.
That
was the end of it, and so they said yes to the 6-month training program. Boom. Fly over and start training the Emirati Special Forces. In the UAE, totally chill, range stuff, XYZ. One night, I'm not there, and the guys I'm with, they're like, dude, we saw some other guys here with like high-speed night vision, mismatching camis. And I'm like, that's weird. The next night, I see those guys. I go to the training site, and I'm like, bro, is that you? And he turns around, I was like, Dorey, is that you? I'm like, what are you doing here? And they're like, what are you doing here? And there are 2 guys I had known that were active duty.
Oh.
And I said, where are you? I'm like, where are you guys? What are you guys doing? You guys getting ready to go somewhere? Like, yeah, we might be going, a little head nod to the southwest. And I'm like, I've been to that place. And he's like, when? And I told him when. He's like, we need to meet. We go meet up with them, me and my boss, and we're at the Jumeirah Towers Hotel. I'm sure they changed the name by now. We're hanging out, and they're like, dude, we go through it all, and it turns out that they were working with an entity.
Okay.
And they were going to drop kinetic strikes on the two targets we were going to roll on while we were in Yemen.
Oh, shit.
And that's why we kept getting called off. We didn't know why. It was because they knew there was like a friendly force, but we didn't have blue force trackers or anything. And we were getting like, we didn't want a hellfire dropped on our head, but we were frustrated, didn't know why. But thank goodness.
Yeah, you'd been killed.
Yeah. By our own shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, fuck.
That's so trippy. You go halfway around the world, run into your boys. Wait a minute.
What are you doing? Let's have a conversation.
Same place.
Yeah.
So and this is just during that training time with the Emiratis.
So we do a big FTX. We show them because the plan was, look how good we trained them. Let's deploy with them like we tried to and go do some cool shit. And they're like, no, thanks for your training. Beat it. So then me and the one other guy, my boss, we did some contracts and stuff we can't talk about. Good stuff. And then
good stuff.
Traveled around, did some cool shit, and
a lot of bodies left behind.
No, it's not all like that, man. One, we get calls. It's like, hey, this guy is dual citizen, so are his kids, and he's keeping them in country X, and like the mom is a full American, wants her kids back, but he's connected to so and so in that country. Can you go get him? So you get calls like that too. Like, it's
that's
not
fun.
It's just more like a problem-solving company is what we would be, right? So
this isn't Black Cube, is it?
With Black Cube.
All right, good answer. All right, continue.
So
that one's getting clipped.
Is Black Cube the ones that set up people? Like they did a big thing and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk off air on that.
I know they are now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of. You're basically saying it's a lot of random shit where you need very highly trained individuals who can quietly go get something done, essentially.
Yeah, and it might even just be the contacts, like my boss or me. I know the guy who knows the guy who works at Ministry of Police, and we'll just go do it. So that's it. I mean, it's not all crazy running and gunning.
Yeah,
it's not. So did that, and then I got something across my desk was, hey, there's a dude that's living in Belgrade who's a big time bad guy financer, Arabic dude.
Terrorist financer?
Yeah. Okay. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, this isn't running around Yemen. This is Belgrade. And they're like, we just need dirt on him. We need some not so halal activities, right? And I've seen that before. I've been in Bahrain coming back from Iraq and seeing dudes wasted.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, yeah, all I cannot see in Bahrain. I'm like, damn, okay. Like, so there is proclivity for people to be acting a certain way in different places that are not their home country, right, that I've seen.
So they only wanted dirt on the guy. It wasn't
to leverage
like
him to
kill
stop.
This guy or something. Yeah.
And because you're in Belgrade, you're not gonna go kill. Like it's still a Europeanish country.
Yeah, it's an international issue.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm like, that's easy day. I don't like. All I need is my camera, work some sources. I'm there. So
real quick, I'm sorry to ask, but had you done training for surveillance as well in your years in the teams, I take it? Mm-hmm. So you knew that. Okay.
Yeah. So I beat the streets, and Serbia is a beautiful fucking country. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And just get the lay of the land, meet some high rollers, meet some guys that, not the highlights of society, everywhere in between. Trying to see if this guy's like into prostitutes, into kids, into drugs, like just really trying to find anything on this guy. And this guy's fucking clean as a whistle. I'm like, fuck, this sucks. I'm just grinding. And then, I had recruited a source, kid I made friends with, and I was at his house. He takes a phone call one night, leaves. 45 minutes later, the door busts open, and I see him like fly across the floor in handcuffs. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I look up, and there's a gun at my forehead. And I just see it like right here, and I can hear the magazine shaking and rattling because the guy's so nervous. And I try to like zoom out more, and I see it's a uniform, and it's a cop uniform, but it looks like it was bought at like Party City. It looked like really cheap. I'm like, is this a fucking like fucked up prank from this kid? Like, what is going on? And then 4 more cops show up, and then 2 plainclothes cops show up. And I'm like, what the fuck? And they're just yelling at me in Serbian. And like, I don't know what they're saying. So I just like, maybe if I just put my hands up slowly, that's a good start. And it was. And then, you know, I got handcuffed behind my back, thrown on the ground, and, you know, knee in my back. And they're like, just barking at me in Serbian. I'm like, bro, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. Like, American? I'm like, yeah. They're like, American? I'm like, yeah, yes, American. What are you doing here? I'm like, we're going to have a party. No, why are you in Serbia? I'm like, why not? Like, what's the big deal?
Love this country.
Yeah. Do you have a passport? Yes, I have a passport. Like, what are you talking about? Where is it? Like, it's right here. So they start searching this kid's house. They go down to his garage where he has this big safe, and they pull out all these guns. Like 1 million, like 50 guns. But he's a hunter, and like they're all registered and shit.
Okay.
Right? But they're like, oh, American, you like guns. I'm like, as much as the next guy, I don't know. And this goes on, and one of the plainclothes cops speaks English. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck's... Am I under arrest? They're like, you are now. I'm like, fuck, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Like, what do you mean I am now? Like, what's changed between now and 10 seconds ago?
Yeah,
like,
this is strange.
What the fuck are you talking about? And the kid whose house I was with, he's like locked up, and then all of a sudden, his mom, who lived on the first floor, like 4 stories below his flat, she comes flying in, wailing and crying, and the cops have to take her out. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Like, I have no idea what's going on. More conversation in Serbian, like you're going to police station. Fine, whatever. Get in the car, and then we both get put into a car, and there's 2 other guys in handcuffs. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Who are these 2 other guys?
Yeah, because you were there alone doing this, right?
Yeah, I'm like, who are these 2 other guys? Well, doing this, I wasn't doing anything illegal. I was just trying to find out information on somebody, right? It's not something you should get arrested for. No. So I'm like, who are these 2 other guys? And I go to the police department, you know, it's like, spread your cheeks, lift your sack, full. I'm like, what? Fine, do my thing.
They stick a finger up there?
No. You could tell the cop was like, yeah, okay, that's enough. He's like, okay. Like, I'm doing this out of protocol. I'm not really enthusiastic, thankfully. So we get there, and I'm sitting in this little room. It's, you know, the bench is just long enough that it's not big enough for me to lay down in. I'm like, God damn, I get the wool blanket. I'm just sitting there. Then I get pulled out. There's this big, huge dude, cop, and he's like, what's up, man? I'm like, what's up? He's like, CIA? No. DEA? No. FBI? No. Like, just ask me every alphabet. I'm like, no. What are you doing? What do you do for work? I'm like, oh, I'm a private contractor. He's like, oh, yeah. What'd you do? Wow. What qualifies you to do that? I'm like, oh, I was a Navy SEAL. And he's like, oh, you're special forces in Serbia. That's very interesting. And I'm like, what? Why? And then I was like, oh, yeah, Kosovo. And
right. Oh, they don't like you.
I was like, oh, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, I was at my buddy's house. He's like, So you know he got arrested for drugs. I'm like, I did not.
Oh, it was for drugs.
Yeah. So apparently we were going to have a party. He
sounds like a good party.
Not my cup of tea. I'll drink I'll drink all the tequila in the world.
You keep saying that. We'll go with it. He's under the table. Oh God.
Zen is good enough for me. I put 2 6 milligrams in. I'm wired. So this guy takes a phone call. He goes to another city to buy drugs. Well, the drug dealer, that guy's dad got arrested 3 months ago for guess what? Dealing drugs.
Yeah.
So the police been listening to his phone.
Oh no.
So the drug dealer is with a friend, and then the guy I know was there to buy. And what do drug dealers carry on them to protect themselves?
Guns.
So boom, those 3 get arrested. I happen to be at the kid's house, and they go back to search his house. I'm like, who's this guy? I'm like,
he's the kingpin.
Yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the drug lord. So I get wrapped up into this, right? And the good, I call him the good cop, the big dude. He's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah. He's like, he can tell I wasn't lying. He's like, holy shit. He's like, so you're not here for Vucic? I'm like,
for what?
Vucic? I'm like, Vuk? Because I know Vuk means wolf in Russian. So like for a wolf, he's like, no, Vucic. I'm like, what is Vucic? He's like, our president. You're not here to kill our president. I said, no, I'm not here to kill your fucking president. Are you fucking crazy? He's like, yeah, I didn't think so. I'm like, cool, let's go. He's like, yeah, but the newspaper's already found out about it. I'm like, no shit. It's been like 4 hours. He's like, yeah. It's election year too, so
that there's a Navy SEAL and ex-Navy SEAL in
they're
custody.
Here to kill the president.
Oh, here to kill the president.
Oh yeah. They were just like, boom.
Are there articles about this right now?
Yeah.
Can we pull this up? Yeah, Navy SEAL kill Serbian president. I gotta see this for myself.
Yeah, they have me listed as like a Marine Army.
How did they get from cocaine to killing the president? I'm very confused.
I have no idea. And I never was charged with any of those things. So here we go. So the good cop's like, look, dude, I believe you, but this has gone to the media.
Yeah.
He's like, you're fucked. He's like, you're famous and you're fucked. I'm like, but I didn't do anything. He's like, we got anything there?
Yeah, I think we got one here. All right, we can switch to camera 5. Beautiful. All right, so the past several weeks have seen a peculiar set of events play out in Serbia that would make a plot worthy of any good espionage novel. It opened a rare window into an ordinarily opaque world. A former Navy SEAL who now works for a well-connected private military company, a Serbian arms dealer recently sanctioned by the United States government and seeking relief, purveyors of Washington money and influence, all find their way into the plot. Except here, the former Navy SEAL lands in a Belgrade jail and is held under a judicial detention order, while outside, he is daily tried in the virtual courtroom of the pro-Russia Serbian media, which hints or declares outright he is a professional assassin sent to kill Serbian leaders. Some go so far as to accuse him of the January assassination of high-profile Serbian political leader in neighboring Republika Srpska, where anti-Bosnian and secessionist sentiment runs high. To start at the beginning, on February... What year is this, by the way?
19, 20?
Okay.
18, 19?
All right, so this is before Ukraine.
Yeah, so this was the word instantly. Boom. And I'm like, what? No. And then, so the good cop's like, I believe you, but you're fucked. I said, okay, thanks for being honest. Puts me back in the little holding cage. I think
you got your wool blanket.
Yeah, my wool blanket. And 2 or 3 days later, I get pulled out. Two other cops, plainclothes, and him. We get in there and there's this lady, like just big, huge lady smoking cigarettes. Like she's dressed like 101 Dalmatians bad guy, Cruella de Vil, but she was built like Ursula. And she's like, she's sitting there and she's like, make sign here, and gives me this paper in Cyrillic Serbian. And I'm like, bro, I'm not signing this.
Did you ask for a lawyer?
Yeah. They're like, yeah, you don't get one right now. They're like, maybe some other day. Like, there's no like due process there. She's like, make sign here. I'd make translate you. I'm like, motherfucker, you ain't translating shit.
Popo Shime chorus, let's go.
Yeah, I was like, no. And then she's like, I'm like, well, what does it say? It says you have a gun and explosives. And I'm like, I do not have a gun and explosives. I'm not signing this. She's like, she like looks at the cop and she's like, they're like, like, oh, we tried. I'm like, motherfuckers. Like, just see if he'll sign it. I'm like, no. And they're like, okay, sign this. This says passport, your watch, ID, wallet. And I can make out like Rolex.
You sure?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there it doesn't say grenade.
And I was like, here, yeah, exactly right, Granada. And I was like, boom, boom, here. And she's like, okay. Got a bunch of DNA swabs taken from me. And they're like pinning me down, like holding my jaw open, like I'm gonna bite them. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Then I get interrogated by the 2 new cops and the good cop who's sitting next to me. And he's like, hey, these guys are an organized crime unit because there's 4 people in your case. I'm like, I don't even know who those 2 other guys are. Yeah, but 3 or more, now it's being charged as an organized crime. It's being looked at as organized crime.
They're just going all over the board.
Oh, yeah, everything they were throwing at me. And I was like, okay. So they interrogate me, and I'm like, what? No, blah, blah, blah. And I dance with them, and then I just be quiet because I realize I'm getting really tired. I'm slipping a little bit. And they end the meeting, and they're like, we know you're trained, but even the best guys who are trained reveal something. I'm like, ooh, like, wow. Yeah. And it was cool. The good cop during this interview, the good cop.
I love that he's the good cop.
Yeah, he translated something from them. He's like, hey, they asked if you want to take a polygraph. And then he leaned in real close and said, say no. I was like, no. He's like, yeah. He said no. I was like,
Because they would rig it.
Yeah. He knew that. He's like, dude, you didn't do anything, but you're in for it.
Yeah.
So.
Are you thinking like, I'm fucked?
No, because I'm like, there's nothing there. I still didn't know why we even got arrested.
I know, but like, you're in a foreign country. They've decided they don't like you. You know you did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I thought maybe they'd say leave. Because you have to have something. You have to have one thing.
Right.
You have to have one thing.
Allegedly, right?
So I get put back down in a little holding cell. The next day we go to court and we have to make statements. And the lady's like, what were you doing? I'm like, I was at this guy's house. He left, he came back, arrested. I got arrested. She's like, okay, yeah, I don't really see any charges here, but you're an American and there's 4 of you in this thing. You guys are going to go to jail until this gets figured out. I'm like, awesome. Fantastic, right? Like, this is fucking crazy. And in the hallway of the courtroom, I met my lawyer, and he's like, there's a bunch of lawyers trying to represent me. And he's like, hey, Mr. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, say hi. I'm like, okay, you're my guy.
Right.
Yeah. And that was kind of a relief because that meant that people knew what was going on with me. Like, my people knew what had happened because, phone off, everything.
Is this the guy from the original meeting who wired the 20 grand?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's like, this guy knows you're here. I'm like, all right, cool. Roger that. Like, someone has my back. We're good to go. And then like, oh, so they put me in the first observation room, and I was in there with a hardcore criminal dude, like career criminal, and there's like a hole in the ground as the toilet. No toothbrush, no shower. You have a spoon, a blanket, and a bowl. And 3 times a day, they wheel a cart with a 5-gallon metal thing and with a ladle, and they go, here's your shit. And you're like, all right. And I did that for 3 days, and they're like, all right. And they put me into...
Did you talk with that guy at all?
Yeah.
Or he didn't speak any English?
A little bit. He's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I'm American. He's like, you're American? Oh, you'll be out tomorrow. He's like, did you really do nothing? I'm like, yeah, really. I have no idea. He's like, you have a blue passport? I'm like, got a blue passport. He's like, oh, embassy, you're good. I'm like, hey, man, thanks. Like, cool. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that.
He was wrong.
He was super wrong. Yeah. So prison guards, they then take me after. They take him and me, so that was just observation. I guess they keep you there to see where you're going to fit in well. But they put me in a special room. They put me in a room with a guy who murdered his wife with a hammer.
Oh, nice.
A Croatian terrorist. And
excellent.
A dude who professionally kidnaps people for ransom.
You were on the all-star team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I walk in and, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I've seen all the movies. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to, like, stab somebody. You know what I mean? Like, here we go.
Put him up.
Yeah. So the guy walks up and he pulls out this shank. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then he reaches across me and grabs a bag of cookies and opens it up. And he's like, here. And I'm like... That's a weird way to open a bag of cookies, bro. Like, you almost had it coming, bro. I was like, holy fuck, dude. And they're like, calm down. You've seen too many movies. And I'm like, holy shit. This is going to be fucking fun, right? And they're like, oh, you're and they turn on the TV, my name, ticker, a stock photo of some operator in like a hat and gear. I'm like, oh my God, really? I thought I was going to be the gray man. Good cop was right. They had my shit.
Everywhere.
And it's weird in that country, being a criminal is like really highly romanticized. It's like cool. It's still like, oh, bad boy, cool, fucking cool shit.
Cool?
Cool. Especially amongst other criminals, like, oh, you're a fucking badass. You're a real deal. Like, It's like prison culture, tough guy shit, like gang shit. And I was like, fuck, so much for keeping a low profile. And when I walk in the halls to go to the cantina, guys would salute me and the prison guards would salute me. I'm like, what?
They'd salute you.
I'm like, what? Because I found out everybody in prison and every like federal employee, they all hate the president. So they believe the headlines. And I was like their messiah. And
they're like, this is our guy.
And I was like, I just kind of rolled with it. I'm like, yeah, it was too bad it didn't work out.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. So everyone's like, no, was it dangerous in there? I'm like, not really. Everyone thought I was awesome. They're like, that's weird. I'm like, I know. It's really weird. It was bizarre. And plus, Serbia is a pretty homogeneous country. Anglo-Saxon, white, Orthodox church. And so there's not like, you're this color, I'm that color. Not that should make anyone want to fight each other. I think it's ridiculous, but there's just all, and it's a small country. And when you're in there, it's us versus them, us being everyone behind bars and them being the system, right? So now's not the time to start being violent, go to court, and you're like, your lawyer's trying to say you're an angel and you just stabbed a dude in the neck, right? So it's like, let's just all be chill.
But you're still not having any problems with guys being like, oh, was he in Kosovo? Or stuff like that?
Some of the old guards were, but I'm like, bro, do you think I was 15 flying a fighter pilot? Do you know how old I am?
Yeah.
Fucking idiot. Yeah. It's 99. I graduated high school in 02. Like,
fuck off and open up the bar.
Yeah. Stupid. So I was in that special room, which sucked because we only had 30 minutes a day on the walk outside.
Oh, you're 23 and a half down.
With a guy who hammer murderer, his wife. Right?
Was he a nice guy, though, at least?
He's super nice. He's a great guy. Yeah.
Did he do it?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Apparently, when he was living with his mom, and like his mom's got crystal balls and she's a witch or whatever, and they went to the house to investigate. In the whole house, there was not one piece of DNA or fingerprint on the entire house, like bleached, clean head to toe. Whoa. She's like, "Oh yeah, I just did a cleaning. That's just how I roll." Okay. So I'm in that room, and it's like these guys are staying up super late, giving each other tattoos with like fucking razor blades and broken pens, and I'm like, dude, they're like, oh, FOCA, yeah. So they called me FOCA, FOKA, because I don't think the newspaper knows that SEAL is an acronym, so they just called me SEAL, like the animal, and FOCA means like the animal seal in Serbian. Right. Like, oh, FOCA, you need to get a tattoo. I'm like, I'm not getting a fucking prison tattoo with a razor blade. Get the fuck out of here. But then I was on the top bunk, and the hammer murderer was underneath me, and his radio was on when he had passed out, because they're all on drugs. He's going to keep hammering. So I just took the radio one night, and I just spiked it, and I found out later that like it takes 6 months to get a radio approved.
Oh, wrong guy to do that with.
No, I would have fucking destroyed him.
Yeah. Oh, you would have.
Oh, yeah. So I bounced it on the ground, and then
hammer or no hammer?
No, I don't need that. He can have 2 hammers. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're confident. That's good. Yeah.
So I spike his radio, and the next day I'm out of the room. Thank God. So now I got brought into another room that gets 2 hours a day on the walk.
There you go.
With all the other inmates. Because when I was with that first room with the 3 other guys, the hammer murderer and his crew, our 30-minute walks was just us. So like it was like really daunting being in that fucking room.
Are you outside? Like actually?
It's weird. It's weird. It's a big rectangle outside, and the walls are made up of the prison that are really high. So there's never like direct sunlight, but you can see the sky.
Right.
Yeah. So I got put into a room with like a junkie, a Canadian Aussie who just got wrapped up for a massive cocaine deal by Interpol, and then a dude who's a state-sponsored killer who runs the whole block.
Like, state-sponsored killer?
Yeah. Like,
what does that mean?
Like he kills people in the state by order of the state. Unofficially.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And I'm like, oh, this guy's a serious deal. And then we were kind of like, why would they put us together? And like, we're like checking for microphones and shit. But he was cool. He ran the prison. And, that was probably at 2 months in, and 3 months in was when embassy started coming, and embassy was of no help. The guy was terrified. He's like, oh, how's the food? I'm like, it's shitty. Can you change it? He's like, no. I'm like, well, quit asking. They didn't do anything. Like, oh, the newspapers, they're looking pretty bad against you. I'm like, what? Shut up, dude. It's worse than National Enquirer. Like, do you even believe American news? Like, come on, bro.
I'm surprised. I know you're not actively in the teams at this point, but I'm surprised it was like that low touch point. From that, like just a basic embassy guy coming, like this is kind of a big deal. You're being accused of bullshit, of like trying to kill a president. Like this is a geopolitical nightmare. You would think they're like sending the fucking Secretary of State there.
I think people were interested. So in April we went to a small trial. Court made statements again. She goes, I don't see any reason to charge you. You're free to go. Awesome. Been here 3 months. Learned some chess.
Good vacation.
Easy day. Yeah. Go back. And as soon as I get to my cell room, I start packing up my shit into a black trash bag. That's the luggage of prison.
Right.
And the guard's like, Foca, advocate, lawyer. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I grabbed my bag. He's like, no, leave it. Okay, so I go to my lawyer. He's like, yeah, when you left, she got a call. And they said you will be charged with something. I'm like, get the fuck. He's like, yeah. I'm like, how? What are we talking? Another month? He's like, I'm like, another 6 months? He's like, I'm like, bro, we're gonna be here a year? He's like, dude, I don't know. I know in the end it's gonna be okay, but it's gonna be a long fucking time, so settle in. I was like, Jesus motherfucker, Christ. Dude.
Now it's gotta set in a little bit.
That's when I was like, okay, I live here now. When April hit and I thought I was free to go, and then my lawyer's like, you're gonna be here a long fucking time. I was like, okay, this is my home.
2019?
I think so. 2018, okay. I don't remember.
The pandemic's not happening.
No.
Right, okay.
So I'm like, this is my home, and then just the doldrums of fucking being in prison and fucking seeing guys come and go, and they're like, yeah, I beat the shit out of this kid. I beat him to death, but the camera didn't catch it all, and I'm free. I'm like, I didn't do it. How did you come in and you're out, and I haven't fucking done anything? But this is fucking crazy. Like I'm happy the kid's free. Maybe he should be, I don't know, but I'm jealous, right? I was like, God damn, dude. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get in great shape. I'm going to learn Serbian. I'm going to get good at chess. I'm going to make the best of this time, right?
Did you learn Serbian?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So learned some Serbian, and finally, so legally they're supposed to charge me within 6 months of arresting me. They charged me at month 11.
They did charge you.
After holding me for 11 months, they charged me.
Now, during this whole time, before we get to the charges, are you constantly worried about like someone wearing a wire around you or shit like that? No. Record me. What am I going to say that's incriminating? I mean, but the thing is, you could say like, hey, I'm coming over for dinner at 6. Mm-hmm. You know, let's have some spaghetti, and it sounds like it's code for something. You know what I mean? Like, people can make wires sound however they want.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no, but like...
You weren't that worried?
No. Okay. No.
You don't seem like a worrier.
No, I'm at 0. I don't care.
Pat's over here like, God damn.
So I get charged, and my lawyer brings me in. He tells me, dude, you got charged. I'm like, good. Because it's an event, right? It means something's going to have to start happening.
Right.
I'm like, what are the charges? Like owning and distributing firearms and explosives. I'm like, what? Fine, whatever, right? Cool. He's like, yeah, they have your DNA on the gun. I'm like,
oh,
how?
No.
Well, they took a couple swabs. I'm like, well, tell them they didn't touch it. He's like, well, that's not going to fly, because in Serbia, DNA is king. DNA, you're done. Here in the States, like, there's transferable, like that's a piece, but it's not the end all be all here in the States, because they know that's not how DNA works.
Right.
But he's like, dude, there's DNA. So we have to come up with a reason that he showed it to you, you touched it. I'm like, okay, fine. Whatever we've got to do to satisfy the DNA, fine. Even though they took enough cotton swabs, they could put DNA in a fucking tank right now.
Right.
Like, I'm like, fine. I'm like, who's our judge? Couldn't get a judge for another month because no judge wanted the case. Because you have this political pressure that even the president was like, oh, he wasn't here to shoot fish in the Danube River with that gun. I didn't have a gun. What are you talking about? So there's that. There's this pressure that I'm this bad guy. And then there's the pressure of people doing their jobs as a judge, because there's no jury there. It's just a judge, one person. And they have to look at the facts. So if they do their job and look at the facts, there's nothing to even keep me there another day. But it looks bad after all the shit that was talked about me.
Is it an elected judge, though? Or is it
I don't know how they're...
Because I would think, this is like a political kind of... You know how that works. Yeah. And there could be pressure, but...
So we finally got a judge. And my lawyer calls me in again. You got a judge? I'm like, yes, He's like, no, bad. I'm like, why is this bad? Come on. It's a woman. I'm like, who fucking cares? He's like, yeah, but women aren't good for men crimes. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's a gun involved. I'm like, bro, it's kind of sexist, but like I'm just happy we have a judge, but sure. Right? I was like, whatever. And then trial starts in January. So I got arrested in January. My first day of court is in the following January. And the way court works there is because they're so backed up on everything. You go in and you do I have to get transported, and I get transported in my own little paddy wagon with MP5s on either side of me. Like they put on a show when they transfer me back and forth and walk me in the courtroom.
They put you in the Bane mask.
I was ready to be Hannibal Lecter, bro. I was like, really, guys?
I was raised in the dark.
Exactly. The nighttime is dark for me. It's for everybody, bud. So, and they're like, the guards are like kung fu gripping me for like a year every time they move me around. They're like, oh, this guy's the most, newspapers saying I'm the most dangerous man that's ever even been in the country and all this crazy shit. And we go make opening statements. So you make opening statements and then you leave and you come back a month and then you do the next part and the next part.
You wait a month after opening statement?
And then they do examination and then a month cross-examination and then a month evidence and then a month. Like that's how the court works there. It's not like you start court 12 days later, it's over. It's boom, leave, boom.
Okay.
So we show up and opening statements, horrible translator. I'm just like, what? Yeah, I don't fucking know. I don't know what's going on. I'm beyond like disbelief that this is even happening still. And I've been in prison now for 12 months. I've been for a year.
Yeah.
So I like, you can't be nervous or scared that long. You just don't give a fuck anymore. Like this is fucking stupid. Opening statements go down, go back to prison. Everyone's like, how'd it go? I'm like, I don't know. And then go back the second or third time when they're like, oh yeah, the translator's not here. Go back, come back in a month. I'm like, motherfuck, dude. So we go through everything. We finally get to the last court date. And then like, okay, we're going to do verdict the following week. Don't have to wait a month, just a week for the verdict.
It's the last court date, basically closing arguments?
Yep.
Okay. Closing
arguments, and then 7 days from there is going to be verdict. Okay, go in. I'm ready. I'm looking at 12 years or some crazy shit.
Wow.
Or something crazy, right? All right. I guess I'll go. At least I'll go to the prison where I can go run and work out outside. I'm like planning my life, right? So we all have to stand up and like, you three guys, and you're a drug dealer and blah, 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 blah. And then, Daniel stand up. And of course, on this day, I get the worst translator I've ever had during this whole process. And I'm like, what the fuck is she saying? Like, come on. And she's like, you're free to go. I'm like, well, you don't have to look so fucking surprised. Right? Like, yeah. But I was really nervous. I'm like, I need to know under what terms, because I was ready for them. Me and my lawyer were like, they might do guilty, time served to go home. And I didn't want that.
You didn't want that?
I didn't want to be guilty, time served. I wanted to be acquitted because I didn't do anything.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But like, if they're like, you can get the fuck out of here. It's Serbia. Who the fuck? You have a criminal record in Serbia. Who cares?
Yeah, right. I don't know. I like it there. I definitely want to go back. As fucked up as it sounds, it's awesome. I love it there. I know.
Have you been back since then?
No.
I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, what? Under what circumstances? She's like, oh, you're innocent. You're acquitted of everything. I'm like, okay, good. And everyone's like, weren't you like so excited? I'm like, no. I was like, this should have happened fucking 18 months ago.
Right.
Wow, there's nothing to be excited for. I just had 18 months robbed from me. I'm excited. So the judge is like, look, in perfect English, she's like, hey, I'm sorry this happened to you. I hope this doesn't make you view Serbia in a bad light. The state is to pay for all your legal fees, damages, like all this shit. And I'm like, cool. She's like, but you got to go back to prison to go get your shit. And then you have to go back to the police station for customs because you've been here too long. I'm like, motherfucker.
Oh, they just want to fuck you.
Oh, yeah, man. So I go back to prison. Everyone's like, hey, I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. And everyone's like cheering in the yard, like, fuck yeah.
Go kill the president.
Well, if this guy can make it out with all the bad press he had, because it's Shawshank Redemption. Everyone in there is innocent, right? Yeah. Everyone, all right, yeah, sure. So I leave, get my shit, and then the cops escort me to the police station. And I'm like, what are we doing here? And they're like, well, you've outstayed your visa and your passport. I said, I don't think the months of me being incarcerated and then being acquitted should count against the time on my fucking passport, on my visa. And they're like, well, what were you doing here? Where's your laptop? I'm like, I said, motherfucker, and this is like in pretty good Serbian too. I'm like, hey, I already fucking did this shit. I ain't doing it again. What the fuck do you want from me? And they're like, you have to leave in 3 days. I'm like, no, I don't. No, because the time me being incarcerated, I don't have to leave in 3 days.
Oh, you wanted to stay?
No, I didn't want to stay. I just want to tell him fuck off. I'm like, no, that time is not going to count against me because I was in prison.
I would have been in the airport. I would have been fucking gone. Ryanair, back row, in between the fat people. Let's go.
But I'm like, no. But you got to think about it, dude. I just beat a huge charge. So you're like, you think you're invincible. Yeah, I'm like, no, fuck you. And then the boss comes in. He's like, how does 7 days sound? I'm like, yeah, I can do 7 days. But I was gone the next day.
Oh, my God.
I was going to leave regardless.
So you were just fucking with him.
Yeah. I was pissed, dude. So pissed.
No, does Israeli billionaire guy call you at this point?
We link up, right?
In Serbia?
No. So
okay.
Get out, talk to mom and dad, get on the flight home.
Had you talked with them at all in the last 18 months? Like,
no, you're not allowed.
You had no contact?
Zero.
With anybody?
No.
They had to be shitting themselves at home.
No, because the guy from the State Department was saying, oh, it's like a hotel. They're just hanging out.
Oh, my God.
And I showed pictures, went online, showed my mom. She's like, that's not a fucking hotel. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Oh, it was fucking crazy.
They're like airbrushing your face. On
like, look how happy he is. He's on vacation. No, my lawyer was cool because I would write. I'd say, give me your paper. I'd say, Mom, it's cool. Don't believe anything. Don't talk to anybody. I'm safe. I love you. And he'd be like, okay, I'll send that out. Wow. So there was that, but nothing else. So I get home and my mom and dad and brother are there. And I'm like, what's up, guys? They're like, hey. But my mom and dad know me and they know what I do and I travel. And they're like, you good? I'm like, yeah. All right, cool. And then go back to San Diego, hang out with the fam and kind of bopping around. Go to SEAL Team 17. They're like, yeah, dude, we kept extending you, but we had to, your time service was up.
Wait a minute. So while you were a mercenary, you still technically were in the reserves with them?
Yeah.
That's illegal? I didn't know that.
No, because people contract as they work for the reserves all the time.
Okay.
When you're mobilized, you can't because you're
right.
9 to 5.
That's wild. So you were still technically a Navy SEAL during all this.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, we extended you, but we kind of had to. And I said, yeah, it's fine. I was a little pissed at first. So like, yeah, we can't really have you in the SEAL team anymore because I'm like, I was acquitted. Like, oh, you were? Yeah, but I'm like, yeah. So they were kind of like, yeah, but still. I'm like, you know what? I was really mad in the beginning, but I'm like, you know what? We just kind of grew apart, and that's fine. You go that way, I will keep doing my thing. But at first, I was like, that's bullshit because I won, and I fucking didn't do any drugs they tried to give me, and I did this, and I did that, and I didn't take a plea deal, and I fucking, stood my ground, and then I come back, and they're like, yeah, we can't really have you part of the community anymore. And I'm like, fuck, dude, that sucks. All right, fine. I just keep moving forward. So I took a little security job for some rich guy in San Diego Hills somewhere doing some stuff. I'm like, man, what am I going to do next? I get a phone call from my boss, my friend. He's like, hey, brother, I heard you're retiring. I said, no, I'm not retiring. He's like, all right, how soon can you be in Central America? I said, how fast can you get me a ticket? He's like, I'll see you tomorrow. I said, let's do it. So I was back for 30 days and then went back to work.
Where'd you go in Central America?
I can't say. Yeah.
What kind of mission was it? Was it like a cartel kind of thing?
No.
Okay. More like rescue?
Yeah. Asset recovery.
Got it. Interesting.
No.
You find where the Nazi den was?
No, not that kind of.
Right. I gotta ask. I gotta pry around there. So, and this is like 2020 now, 2021.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah. So
July 2020.
You're coming home like mid-pandemic. Was this like a little bit?
No. This is before.
No, the pandemic started March 2020.
Well, then I was 2019. Then I got arrested in 18 and got out in 2019.
Okay. That's all right. Yeah. So So you go down there.
June I got out 2019, and then July 2019 I went back to work somewhere else.
Wow. And you're still doing this stuff today?
Oh, that world has really gotten. It's hard because even in this world, I'll get 4 phone calls in 2 years. And of those 4 phone calls in 2 years, only one of them's legal, only one of them's worth my time, and only one of them's going to pay enough. So it's like, hold your breath and wait for those jobs, or what do you do? So I monitor stuff. I take phone calls. I did something last year, which is not very like totally low risk, nothing crazy, but I have to believe in the mission. I have to be able to sleep at night, and I have to stay on the right side of the law, and it has to be worth my time. And like, as I get older, that criteria is tighter and tighter. So I say no and no much more. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you're running in dark pools sometimes. You're running with things where it's like, well, we're saying we're the good guys, but are you?
And it's hard too, because when Libya fell, there's two generals trying to control Libya, and it's like, one day we will support this guy. So it's like, cool, I'm going to go help him secure an airfield. And then like the next day it's like, no, we support him. So it's like, that's going to put me in a weird spot. I'm going to stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets complicated out there, man.
Oh yeah.
But you have, guys like you have such a unique set of skills that it's always going to be relevant. There's going to be someone calling with a big enough bag at some point, you know, that I'm sure it gets tempting sometimes. That you say no to. No.
No.
Mm-mm.
If it's
Even
not,
if the bag's huge.
No, I'm not super money driven. If I was, I never would have joined the military. Right, it's not a place to make money.
I agree with that, but also guys do know that, like, not that they're thinking about this when they join, but especially if you're high up in the military or things like that, that's an asset when you leave.
Yeah,
people want you.
But you can also go be. I mean, everyone I know is over right across the river here.
Yeah.
And they're making bank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could go do that. Sure. Because it gives you a lot of, sets the standards that you need. Discipline, work,
and I think more
yourself.
And more people are seeing guys come out of the special operation community as more than just like jack dudes with guns. They're like, oh, their leadership, their, their leadership, critical thinking, public speaking, all that shit. They're like, we can use that in corporate. So guys are getting really good jobs now. Yeah.
What made you want to write the book? Because you're an extremely humble guy. You're someone I got to get to expand upon things. Yeah. You're not necessarily the guy that's like, here's everything that happened.
Yeah.
Taylor gets in here, boom. He'll just go through the whole thing. But you're more guarded with that. What made you want to like literally put your testament out there?
So I didn't. I got a phone call from a book agent who goes, hey, I heard about your story. Do you want to do a book? And I said no, because I was still doing my thing.
Right.
But then, like I said, the criteria got tighter and tighter, and the calls became fewer and far between. He called again. I said, let's do it. But I don't want it to be a SEAL book. I want it to be post-SEAL. I want to focus on things that haven't already been written about. Buds and running with a log. Like, yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then sat down and we banged it out.
And that's like a good decade-ish period, right? Like almost decade there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate you going through so much of this stuff today and really like charting your career too before that, because that sets the foundation. You're on SEAL Team 5, SEAL Team 6, doing that kind of shit. It just puts you in another stratosphere. But was there anything we didn't get to today that you wanted to get to?
No, man. It was good.
I think we covered the gamut. This was fucking entertaining for Pat. Definitely entertaining for me over here.
Good job, Pat.
Yeah, thanks for Pat. Last minute addition. I scheduled this because you were going to be in town, unless he was previously scheduled to be out of town. But great fucking job today, bro. I appreciate you.
Much appreciated. Happy to be here.
Oh, there we go. I got you on
Much
there.
Appreciated. Happy to be here. To all those watching, thanks for having me, and I'd love to do it again.
All right, brother. I'm sure we will. But we're going to have the link to your book down in the description below, so everyone go check that out. American Mercenary.
And I recorded the audiobook too, so if you want to hear this voice.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
Check it out.
I'm glad you did.
And you can hear my voice acting skills because I change it up for different people in the book.
Oh, you were an actor in this too?
Oh, I went full on. And it hurt my throat too. It was like,
are we going to get you acting in your own shit in the future? Is that a possibility?
I think I'm more behind the scenes guy. Okay. Voice acting, if Pixar wants to hire me, let's do it. Like, I can do the booth all day.
All right, I'm going to download the audiobook now.
All right, yeah, check it out. Check it out.
Now I hope it's good. I hope you didn't oversell yourself there.
We'll see.
You're a voice actor. I wouldn't have guessed that.
I'd like to be. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool job.
You do any accents in there too?
I do like a raspy bro voice, like a kind of a Cavanaugh voice. Yeah.
But you weren't doing like Arabic accents.
I tried.
Shit? Oh, you tried.
I've tried. They're bad. We got got through it.
All right, let's not get you canceled.
All right.
You've been through enough. But Dan, thanks so much, man. It was a pleasure. Everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me. Peace. Thank you guys for watching the episode. Before you leave, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button on the video. It's a huge help. And also, if you're over on Instagram, be sure to follow the show at Julian Dorey Podcast, or also on my personal page at Julian D. Dorey. Both links are in the description below. Finally, if you'd like to catch up on our latest episodes, use the Julian Dorey Podcast playlist link in the description below. Thank you.